It is day one of playoffs. My name is Trajan. I will be your desk host today. And before we get into the action, before we get the analysts in, before we start talking about today's matchup, we have an announcement to make. Everybody, pay attention. The finals tickets are now available for sale in the Discord, on social media. You'll find the links there. Get tickets for the arena. There's a watch party as well down in Stoke-on-Trent. It is going to be massive. It's going to be, let's be honest, probably the coolest thing that's ever happened in Stoke-on-Trent. You don't want to miss it. That is on June 21st. That's a Saturday. So check out those links. Get your tickets locked in because I'm pretty sure they're going to sell pretty darn fast. Now, with that said, we have a long road to get there. That's June 21st. Today is May 19th, and we are coming back to day number one. Let's bring the analysts in here, because we've got quite a lot to talk about. My analysts today, assuming they arrive at some point, we have Mile and Frisky. Welcome, folks. Welcome, friends. My international desk here today. We're spanning pretty much the whole dang map. Frisky, how are you doing? Welcome to the Four Nations playoffs. How are you feeling?
I don't think we're going the whole map. We're going like half the map. So, maybe work on your geography for a bit, but we'll get there a little bit later. Other than that, yeah, I'm doing great. I mean, first day of the playoffs, we got an exciting match, so I'm really interested to see how it's going to go.
Yeah, we're starting with a bit of a banger. Low key, a massive banger to kick the playoffs off. Mile, how you feel about this one? You excited for this match?
Honestly, I couldn't have wished for a better match to start playoffs with. I feel like it's going to be really exciting. I hope that they will give us a bit of a show, but knowing both of these teams, it surely is going to be a show.
Yeah, we don't hold back here from these two teams, that's for sure. Now, before we zoom in on this one, let's talk a little bit about playoffs as a whole. As this is the first day, let's get acquainted with it. So, production, if we could get the bracket up, please. Thank you very much. We have 8 teams in playoffs so far. 4 in the upper bracket, 4 in the lower. We are starting today with Quick versus BROD and Friends. But for now, before we get stuck into that one, Frisky, from what you've seen right here, the matchups, the teams that qualified, is there anything that stands out to you as a particularly interesting matchup or a surprise team, maybe a placement that you didn't expect from any of these 8 teams?
I certainly think that Bandits is maybe the one that people were kind of surprised of kind of how they underperformed the entire time. I mean, they did go 5-4, so they ended with a positive record, but I mean, so many of their games were very messy, and after coming from a second place finish, even though in the split before they finished like 4th or 5th or something, but still finishing second in the playoffs, I think gave them a little bit higher expectations. And the fact they didn't is, kind of a little sad. You kind of wish that they were kind of going to be in the mix a little bit more. I think everybody was a bit surprised with Quick at the end of the day. I think we knew that they were going to be strong, but we didn't, I don't think, expected them to be extremely strong. I mean, they were the team that has the only team that's beaten Venom Crest so far. The kind of more structured play of Venom Crest versus the more kind of wild, more one-trick-esque of Quick, I think we would call that. Maybe, surprising people a little bit. It's really just going to see how they carry that into playoffs now that we get best of threes and best of fives going into things. Can they keep up that kind of same momentum going into it?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I agree for sure on Bandits. Like, I was there at the Manchester finals. I have my custom-made 200 Bandits coasters handed to me by the... I thought this team was going places, you know? I thought we were only up and up here, but now we're having to stress again. They've dropped 200 of them. There's just the Bandits now, and they're only 5-4, so they've got a long lower bracket run. I know, it just doesn't hit the same. But Melee, how do you feel about IntQuick? I think I agree with Frisky as well that he said that no one really maybe expected IntQuick to be 9-0 right at the top, given the struggles they had even to qualify in the Div 2-1. Like, they didn't come up in first from Div 2. So what is your read on IntQuick, Hal? And why do you think they're actually ended up just completely invincible so far?
I mean, I think, first of all, they've grown a lot as a team ever since they first started out in this first div. But I also feel like they have just such incredible individual players. People like Dragdar and Karina, who just bring so much personality, but also experience with them. And having cast Karina lots and lots and lots of times last year in Equal Esports Cup, I just know her quality as a jungler. I know she's very strong. She's bringing a lot of good shot calling into her team, and I think at the end of the day, it made the difference for them that they grew together very, very well. And I just feel like maybe because their expectations haven't been this high, maybe the pressure wasn't also as much as with other teams, for example, like Venom Crest, who definitely, you know, they need to perform. We have this expectation of them, or like a team like Bandits, right? And with them coming into the league freshly off of literally just promoting and nothing much more, I feel like they maybe dealt with the whole situation a little less under pressure, and they were just able to perform, try out things, and give us some entertainment as well. And I remember the first game I saw of them, it was mind-blowing, and I'm super, super hyped to see them. And also, of course, I gotta say, I'm always a big fan of the female representation within all of these teams. So yay, Slay, I'm happy we're here today.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember many a Karina clutch, that's for sure, and the Watley Warwick top will certainly stick in my mind for a long time. I'm sure it will with everyone else as well. But before we talk a little bit more about the other side and about the rest of this matchup, I gave you guys a little bit of homework a couple days ago. I asked you both to pick a player to watch throughout the entirety of playoffs. So 8 possible teams, and I didn't explicitly, but kind of implicitly said not from the teams who are watching today, because we're going to talk about them in a bit more detail, but you both managed to hit that one without me asking for it, so thank you very much. Now, let's start with you. Let's go back to you, Melee, for yours as well, to kick off here. Who is your player to watch? Any of the 8 teams, except the ones we're currently looking at, who would you pick? Who is the one that we need to be paying attention to?
I mean, it's a given for me. It has to be the Trizzler, right? I'm looking at Rise. I'm looking at Trizzy. I know Frisky disagrees. He's like, why did you call him the Trizzler?
Mainly just
leave.
with the naming,
you know
yeah.
I mean, I'm the one who makes puns, so like I shouldn't be that mad. So it's a bit hypocritical of me. Shocking.
Yeah.
No, number one, the name is one of the reasons why I picked him. No, I think Trizzy is also one of the standout players here, personality-wise. He brings in a lot of, you know, experience. His champion pool is very interesting. He likes to play these carry-oriented junglers. You know, we've seen a lot of Jaego, Xin Zhao, Kindred even, like such interesting picks, and I feel like his impact on the team has been immense, especially together with BB Muffin. I feel like their synergy has been so game deciding in several moments, and I just want to see what Rise as a team are cooking up, but also what Trizzy has been cooking, because they are currently in 3rd place. They are in this upper bracket, but their opponent is going to be a rough one, and I'm just very interested to see if Trizzy once again can shine with his personality, his carry champions, and make the team actually go further here.
Yeah. Always a leader, right? Has always been someone who leads from the front, from the jungle. Has been around quite a long time. Had a little bit of a break before coming into this year, but does not seem to have missed a beat. Absolutely still the same carry player that we know and love from those splits past, and has been making a big impact on Rise Gaming's refreshed roster. Now, Frisky, how about you? Which player has caught your eye?
I chose a bit of a more interesting one. I don't necessarily think that this player is the best in the world, but I think it's somebody to look out for. All right, clearly Trajan agrees with that. So I picked Bust from Venom Crest, their top laner. So yeah, as we said, not the best player ever, but we got to remember for a second, Venom Crest is 8-1, and I think people kind of forgotten about them because we're all focused on the craziness of InQuick. A lot of Venom Crest's games weren't streamed, especially their loss to InQuick, so I don't think a lot of people saw all that happening. I mean, if they saw those streams, it'd be a bit crazy. But anyway, I think that Bus has a lot of impact in his team's team fights. I think his kind of not only in lane where he's able to get solo kills, but the fact that he can put so much pressure on people, in a traditional front to back from the sides, I think is a really important necessity for Venom Crest play. I think they rely a ton on these team fights to do well. So I think that his success is going to be one of the biggest benefits for Venom Crest. I mean, he can play bruisers, he can play more traditional tanks, but he often plays like so, kind of around the team when he plays team fights. So I think it's going to be really important that he, is always getting his CC right, and that's going to allow Venom Crest to win. I think if they set up these team fights, really well, and Bus plays, out of his mind, we still see him playing some crazy Cassante games. I think it can give InQuick a lot of trouble.
Yeah, for sure. I think for Bust as well, someone that we've seen for a long time, and someone that I think has grown quite a lot in their time in the various iterations of UKL and Four Nations, where he's always leaned towards these carries. Like the Camille has always been a quintessentially Bust pick, but there have been highs and lows. There have been championships won and kind of forgotten splits where we didn't see much of him, right? He's currently certainly performing very, very well, but you're right, Frisky, a very important piece of that Venom Crest puzzle if they want to get a back-to-back championship lockdown. Now, with that said, let's focus on this matchup because we're going to be getting into the draft before too long. So, BROD and Friends versus InQuick. We've already spoken about InQuick to some degree right here, so I'm going to come back to you, Frisky, as well, because Mila, you've already given us the lowdown who you think is super important there. Karina, you mentioned very, very powerfully, is such a super important member of this roster, right? But Frisky, if you had to pick a single player, just to talk about here, for InQuick, we have the roster here, Kerberos, Karina, BZ, Dragdar, and Kittenly. Who would you choose to be a particular extra player to mention right here? I guess we say you can't pick Karina because Mila's already done that.
Well, I wasn't going to,
limiting
don't worry.
you here.
I mean, there's a lot of people to pick from that.
Yes.
I was actually thinking about this, and I kind of wanted to pick Dragdar at first because I wanted to talk about the Spark matchup with him, but I kind of want to get to that in a bit because I think BZ, or BZ, sorry, I have to be, I'm not moving to the UK yet.
Use the local dialect,
BZ.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll do my best. I think BZ is probably the least talked about player when it comes, I don't know what to say with this team, but he's certainly one that deserves more credit than I think he's getting. We saw him with the Zed's shirt. He picks a lot of like crazy assassin things, but every time he does well on a game with them, he's always like doing so well on the map to pressure other people. He allows InQuick to get so much control based on how strong of a player he is and how much his threat is across the map. That's a really big factor, the fact that somebody can be feared so much and they're not sure what he could potentially do. Looking at this play here, kind of comes in late to help the team fight. Melee's favorite champion, Karthus, is kind of doing a lot more of the work here. But at the same time, he still kind of comes in, helps clean up with the rest. You've already got a really strong structure with Dragdar as a really, really good ADC, and then Karina playing so aggressively. And then he's just there to pressure a ton on the map, get his solo kills in lanes, and do so much to help them gain control. I think he's going to be maybe the biggest factor in the game, especially if Spark and Dragdar kind of nullify each other. If BZ gets ahead in lane, they're going to try to play around him, and they're going to use his strengths as well as possible, and that's going to be one of the keys for InQuick to get the win.
Yeah. It's good to see. It's because across these two clips, you get the Zed play, but you also get the Talia play, right? You can get both. You can get the utility as well as the assassination, and BZ has been putting up some pretty monstrous damage numbers from that mid lane, and that's in a league that now has QQR coming back into it. It's got BB Muffin that Mile mentioned as well, completely tearing it up in the mid lane, so it's not a weak role right now, but BZ has certainly acquitted himself super, super well. So let's take a look at BROD and Friends. Let's take a look at them, because we haven't spoken about them as much right now. The roster: Akers, Pulp, QQR, Spark, and Zeta. Of course, 4 stacked downwards from jungle, coming in from the Cabbage family from the great Warwick days, and then the Akers of classic old BROD and Friends fame slotted in right there. So Mile, what's your kind of read on BROD and Friends right now? They've come in 6-3. They've not had as dominant of a season. We know they really, really want to make it to a final, to make it to a LAN. What's your kind of feeling about how likely they are to get there?
Look, I can already see the people in chat being like, BROD are going to finals. It's going to be BROD versus Rise. Why do they not know?
They got big
Look
fans.
And listen.
They do.
I love the BROD fan base. I think that's actually one of their biggest strengths is as a team is that they have such an incredible backing as well by the people out there. I feel like they have several carry personalities in their team. I don't feel like they just rely on ADC or just rely on mid lane. I feel like even Akkers can put on those carry pants. We've seen some great clips. We might get some as well in a second, where you can just see him, burning people on his rumble. And I love that. I love that. I personally enjoy that very well. And we can see though, as already mentioned a little bit, I think Spark as well has such an insane impact. I mean, this performance here, 20-4, that's not what we should always expect. But I think if they are on their A game, they can play comebacks like this, or they can play games like this where they, just overtake everyone else. And I think that's also what kind of makes them a little bit dangerous for Int Quick today. Because I feel like similar to Int Quick, they do have this very interesting personality to them. And I feel like that's a bit of the clash here, where does the personality kick in and overtake maybe the macro parts that could possibly be better in one or the other team. So I'm really interested to see how that's going to play out. I feel like BROD have a lot more potential than what they have shown us so far, and I'm excited to see how far they can take it.
Yeah. I mean, we knew that the 4-stack would come in with high synergy, and Akkers has slotted into that without any problem, it seems. He's always been a very versatile top laner. And yeah, we got to see in that clip the Rumble coming out. He's gone back and done some of the supportive champions as well. I remember personally complaining to Akkers and Governor, the owner of BROD and Friends, that why aren't we seeing carry Akkers more? We're having so much fun with carry Akkers. Now we're back to utility every game. What's going on? And we're getting to see both of it. So that's very, very nice for them. And they have that pop-up potential, right? That clip, we saw Spark going absolutely nutty in there with the Akkers Rumble doing a huge amount of damage. They've got synergy, but they've got pop-up potential as well, right? It feels like sometimes Int Quick has the most pop-up potential of anybody, right? Their individual players are just absolutely insane, but do they have the same ability to come together as a cohesive 5-stack to compete against the team that, if the team can match them hands-wise, maybe they'll be able to play out a cleaner game. But Frisky, I don't know, from Int Quick, from what we've seen, I guess how well would you judge their ability to play competitively? We know they're excellent solo queue players, they're very, very skilled, but what is your read on them, I guess, as a team of 5 rather than just 5 players?
I mean, a team of 5, I mean, it does just seem like it is just kind of 5 players. I mean, I don't believe they have a coach, or it at least doesn't feel like a very coached team, because it's definitely not.
I think Watley is technically their coach, but I mean,
coach and name only. We'll just we'll not dive into that too much.
I think it's great. So
they are just kind of. I mean, they seem like they're 5 players that work well with each other. I mean, they haven't destroyed every game. They've been in games where the situation's been tougher. The last game they played with the substitute, whose name I forget, it felt like a lot less synergy than we've seen the games with Karina in. So clearly she has a good amount of control on the games here. But they are at the same time still just 5 streamers. I'm always going to mention it because it's still insane to me that Kitten Lee is not only playing League of Legends but playing 2 different gacha games at the same time. She really does
at
this
least
on her stream.
2.
She's playing it, dies. She's playing one and then switches to the other one. I'm like, I can't even play one gacha game at the same time, let alone with League and that. So how they're going to kind of fit together, it is very similar to just kind of the madness of a BROD as well. I mean, BROD probably does have a little bit more structure than Int Quick is, but if they just consistently play the same way and they just don't overthink how much of a team they need to be, and they're just well, we're 5 kind of chaotic players, we're just going to play what we're good at. That's what got them here, and that's what they want to do to keep the momentum rolling and get them to the championship.
So maybe leaning into the chaos from BROD and Friends, we might see if that works for them well today. The last thing we're going to touch on quickly before draft is we're going to talk about our featured matchup here. We have Spark versus Dragdar down in that bot side. We saw the Spark clip before. We saw Dragdar in that previous one as well. And these are 2 players that have been quintessential AD carries from the UK for many years now. Dragdar has been all the way up to the NLC and back. Spark has been around in UK scene winning LANs for years and years. And they both have that pop-up potential. You can see as well just the how close their damage per minute is how much they're both kind of one of those most important stats that people lay down for AD carries. How much are they actually offering in terms of what their role is supposed to do? You could barely split them on this one. They are both very, very good. Exactly the same level of average deaths as well. Potentially, both of them can play a wide variety of things. Both of them can pop off very, very easily. But Melee, if you had to take one, if you had to draft either Dragdar or Spark, you know, in a vacuum, which one would you take? Which one do you think is actually your preferred AD carry that matchup?
That's a bit of a hard question. I think on paper I might prefer Spark because I feel like his focus on AD carry is just a bit more there, and I feel like a player like Dragdar is trying out a bunch of other things. You know, we have some very interesting jungle picks from him in the past few days, which, you know, I'm just not quite there for that. No, but I think Spark for me is a promising talent that I would want to invest into for the future. And I would like to see what else we can get out of him. So that's the player I would draft. And then don't ask me who I would draft around that, because I'm so happy I'm not a coach or manager at this point.
Yeah, well, speaking of, Frisky, speaking as a coach, would you, I guess, how do you feel about that matchup? Given you have to, if you had the choice to take Dragdar or Spark onto a team, who you leaning towards?
What's funny is that this does kind of go against the seemingly like straightforward coaching instincts I have, because you're right, like, you know, the Dragdar's a little bit of a different player, but I actually have to disagree with me. Like, I would take Dragdar instead, because you saw those numbers there. Obviously his KDA looked a little bit less, but this is definitely where the eye test is super important in watching these games. I've watched almost all of the games with Inquick he's played, and I think his impact on the game is maybe, I don't know if it's heavier than, no, I could actually, you know what, I'll say it. I'm going to say it. He has the most impact in the game, I think, of anybody in Quick. Even as crazy as Karina does, his lane impact has been incredible. He always seems to, even if it's the kills aren't great, always find like a way to get like a little bit more ahead in game in the lane, poke out people really well. And then his team fight impact is always incredible. He's always doing a ton of damage. He's always kind of sitting there in the back doing as much as possible. If a game kind of goes to like the wire, or if a game kind of goes iffy, he's always going to be there doing as much damage as possible. Now, if I was a coach, I would say, get the heck off your jungle picks. But there's only so much control. I can have that too. I mean, if the guy's playing ADC and he's playing well, then, you know, I'll take what I can get. But the line is really thin here. I mean, like, Spark has done so well as well. These are the two best ADCs, I think, in the UKEL right now in Four Nations. I think maybe even like you could argue that they're two of the best players that we have right now. Their matchup is just going to be really intense. And with how dominant I think Dragdar has been in the lane, that could easily decide the whole match right there. So there's so much that could just happen right now in that bot lane.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one, absolutely, for sure. And I'm glad to see that we've seen the same 5-stack from BROD and Friends. I think they're the only team that's actually had the same 5 players, no subs, throughout the entire of this split. But we have seen occasionally, we had Donabosson come down into bot side when needed to cover for Kittenly for Inquick. We had Lipsol in the jungle once as well, as you mentioned. So I'm glad that we're getting the full 5-stack, the original 5 for Inquick. So both teams are going to come in at their best. But kind of when we look towards the draft that's going to start very soon, we've had the lobby spontaneously combusted, but it's coming back as soon as possible. Shocking. So we'll get that sorted. But Melee, when it comes to this draft, we are seeing, I guess, oh, there we go. We summoned it into existence. So we have BROD and Friends on the blue side, right? As we roll through these bans, I imagine we're going to see the usual set of Inquicks, the Ezreal, the Zed, you know, maybe even a Karina Neferi, maybe a Kittenly Lulu. We'll see what they want to go for. What are you thinking as a B1 for BROD and Friends? What are we prioritizing here? What's the best value we can get on that first pick?
I mean, we've already talked a lot about bot lane. I think getting an ADC on the board pretty early on, I can see that, especially if we look at both of these players trying to pick more meta confirm picks, if you want to put it that way, right? Like you would want to have something like a Varus or even a Kai'Sa. We saw the Kai'Sa impact in that one clip. It was insane. At the same time, I'm wondering if you would also want to pick a jungler here, because I think both Pop and Karina are in ways similar. They also enjoy more carry-oriented junglers. As we get the Neferi ban, of course, you wouldn't want to give that over. So I'm wondering, because Vi already off the board, you could also possibly ban something like a Xinzao, maybe even a Viego. There you go, Xinzao out. And now I would really like to see a strong jungle first pick, because that is actually a very contested role here for both of these sides.
Yeah, I would have maybe guessed if Xinzao was open, that would have been my guess for their first pick, but they've gone for the Pantheon instead.
This is so good. If they now get Talia as well, we get a comp that we've seen plenty of times. A lot of Pantheon Talia synergy going on right now, both with the ultimates being very mobile, able to move in on the other side, getting that early Lucian hover, makes a lot of sense, as well as that has been a pick that's coming up in Prio again a lot, and the ultimate, the culling just does so much work, and I think Dragda will feel very comfortable on this.
I remember when people used to say that Lucian doesn't scale well. I'm seeing these level 3 cullings, man, and they are, I don't know, they're a bit nuts right now.
I don't know what people are talking about there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they just did a really good thing. I think they're taking away that Talia for the Pantheon Talia is super good. As strong as I think Pantheon is right now, there are ways to deal with him, and I think Talia is one of those champs to deal with him. I mean, if BROD and friends want to stick with a Pantheon-style comp, and they probably can't now build completely fully engage, and InQuick just kind of builds for a more re-engaged style comp, then something like Talia is just perfect for that. Get everyone close up, get her Leandris to proc as much as possible off those rocks, and then just get somebody else to re-engage from there. Now you've got the classic Spark Kai'Sa coming out, so you're going to have a Lucian Kai'Sa. Interesting matchup here. It's going to be an interesting lane one. I think it definitely Dragda is going to have a little bit more pressure in that lane early on, but as we know what Kai'Sa can do in the late game, it's not going to be completely settled. However, just the impact that a single Lucian running into your team, I've seen do so much with. Okay, now that's already getting a little bit crazy here, because now we put a Kennen early on blind. So clearly BROD and friends have just said, no, we're going for the disengage comp, but we do not care. We're just going to kill you all super quickly.
Okay, so still flexible, presumably, right? As well, we've seen Shadow of Change pull a top Kennen out, and I wouldn't put it past QQR. It's been around for a long time. Would put it past him to be able to bring it out. To be honest, I wouldn't even put it past Zeta to be able to bring it out. So we'll see where that Kennen's gonna go. To everyone's great shock and surprise, Kittenly has picked an Enchanter, and the best Enchanter with Lucian at that. I know, crazy.
Is it the best though? Because I have heard that the win rate of Lucian Nami, at least in solo queue, hasn't been too good. So there are possibly better picks, but it has been working so well throughout competitive. So obviously it makes sense. But I would love to see something else with Lucian, just because I've heard that there are better picks out there. But hey, who knows? We'll maybe see it another time.
Could have been the Kittenly Lulu, just they left it unbanned. Like, she needs to keep picking it to teach people that they have to ban it when their name is Lulu. You can't let this happen. We're into the second round of bans right here. It's support focus for InQuick. They're taking away strong engagers for Zeta, so obviously the classic kind of Kai'Sa pairing, you want to stack up the passive and do the damage. And then BROD and friends removing the Kerberos Vayne. This is a very common second rotation ban for them. And the Cho'Gath too. I think that's a good choice. The Kerberos Cho'Gath was a bit crazy. So Frisky, for InQuick now, we need to see what Kerberos is going to take. And Karina as well, leaving the jungle quite late. We don't normally see the jungle get picked this late in draft.
I mean, it kind of depends. I think they wanted to secure the Talia early. I think they wanted to secure some kind of Enchanter before getting those banned out, and it seems like they want to go for a Jarvan now. I will say about the Nami, the more I think about it, the more I actually like it. Again, the super heavy engage style of BROD and friends, pairing it with, now you got an even better situation here with the Wukong, with the Talia, and with the Nami. This is so good at letting you re-engage onto a comp. Everybody engages, you put the tidal wave down, you kind of wait for everyone to get stunned in a little corner, then Talia puts her rocks down, does her work, and now you get the Wukong to sweep in with two Cyclones to really catch people off while they try to disengage. So I think it's maybe going to be a little bit worse in the lane, but they're InQuick are definitely looking to play for the mid game right now. If they catch people exactly where they want, even with something like Sion, you're going to be wanting to fight front to back, and I think it's going to be so beneficial for InQuick to fight in these kind of small spaces. I think they just need a decent top laner, something that does a good amount of damage in these fights to kind of seal things off, and that'll work. But I think that does also convert it, unless it's going to be some crazy Sion mid. It looks like we're going to be having a Kennen mid scenario, which I don't know if I like that into Talia. I feel like Talia's like outranges him enough where it's okay, but I don't know. I want to hear other people's opinions.
I mean, I don't think Kennen's going to beat Talia for any reason, right?
No.
Unless you have like a lot of mid presence, right? There, Melee. I don't think that the Kennen can actually put pressure on a Talia necessarily.
I don't think it's a laning phase pick, to be honest. I think it's a pick for later on in the game. You want to ult into big team fights and, have your impact over there. I also do like that they put, a little bit more of a front line there with the Sion. I'm a little bit surprised with the Shen last pick. I have seen a lot of Shen top lanes in the past few months, and I understand the value of it. The only thing I dislike about it is that it's not as strong of a split pusher as Sion. and you always kind of have to leave your lane alone in order to be everywhere else on the map. And I think there were other picks that I was just thinking about. He plays a lot of Quinn. Obviously nothing close to his numbers of chokeout games, but just thinking about that with the Vayne being banned as well. But I can see how you want to create even more prio for your mid lane and possibly bot lane by using this ultimate proactively, especially during laning phase, and therefore, just put a lot of tempo on the map. I see a world in which BROD can, scale through a point where they can team fight this, but it's definitely not easy to execute, I think, for neither of them. I think both of these comps have some skill in them that I need to come out in order for it to work.
Well, I think the Shen is interesting because it just kind of follows into the kind of re-engage style that I was kind of talking about with InQuick, where obviously the Stand United is going to probably protect, if the Talia or the Lucian gets caught out really early. But what he was hovering before, I actually would have really liked the Darius there because it would have been exactly what I would have wanted in the team fights, right? Something that can just walk up right in the middle, absorb all of the pressure, get some healing, and then allows everybody else to do as much damage as possible. I still think the Shen works. Obviously, Shadow Dash can catch a bunch of people, but I wonder about the split pushing thing because I feel like Shen, maybe not as good as a split pusher as Sion, but I feel like you're going to need Sion in these fights. I mean, if InQuick get a fight without the Sion and they don't have like a ton of frontline to kind of help things out, it's just going to be super easy for them to wipe everybody out. The Kennen will die quick, the Pantheon will die quick. I'm honestly not super convinced this Pantheon is a champ. I feel like it kind of goes, plateaus and then kind of falls off a bit as the late game goes. So we're going to have to really see how BROD and Friends are going to use that.
Yeah, so it seems like BROD and Friends, if they can put those 5 pieces in order, they're going to look very, very strong. They've got great team fighting there, but we'll see how the side lanes go. We'll see how the lanes themselves go, right? We know InQuick has crazy talent in those mechanics. We'll see if they can use the Lucian and Nami to get ahead of it. We'll see how this series is going to start. We're ready to go onto the Rift, guys. We're going to pass it over to our wonderful casters, W King and Rob, for game number 1.
And welcome in, everybody, to tonight's show, BROD and Friends versus InQuick. I'm here joined with Rob. How's it going, buddy?
Pretty good. I'm excited for today. I think, we did the review show or the recap show on not that long ago on Saturday. And we had a lot to say about this matchup, a lot to say about this game today. We also gave our predictions already before any drafts was seen. And I believe both of us were on the BROD train, if I remember correctly. I had 2-1 BROD and you did 2.
Yeah, we both had that. Yeah, we said it would come to 3 games, and I think after looking at this draft for starters, I mean, this is an absolute tone-setting game right here. I mean, we were just talking about this draft as it was coming in, and there were so many surprise picks.
I mean, there's stuff that also maybe is surprising that it wasn't picked, right? So you had stuff like Kit and Lee's Lulu. That was obviously put to the wayside. Lucian Army a more common combo, but didn't see the Kit and Lee Lulu we've come to expect in a lot of these games. We didn't see stuff like maybe QQR on a standard, the Syndra's, the Orianas. We're seeing him on what I assume to be Genna, but it could be Simon. I don't think we've had confirmation of that, but there's some interesting picks from the BROD side as well. So it'd be a very interesting, and the Shen. We should bring up the Shen, Kerberos Shen. I don't think it's had a particularly good showing so far in the UK this split. I know Loopy's played it. I think Smee subbed in for a game for Good Chi. The Shen games have not been popping. So I have low hopes, low expectations for this pick.
Shen's always been like, this is Band-Aid champion in this draft. Just someone you can just slot in anywhere and press the R button to give someone a big shield. Like, we haven't seen that pick kind of just do what it can do. Shen can traditionally trade quite well into tanks, does have like good trading patterns and damage. So maybe this is the game where Kerberos, he might show us what it's like. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, that was one thing. Also, this Kennen pick coming in very early, which is, usually always traditionally going to the top side. But BROD and Friends could definitely slot it into mid as well here. So, like, a lot of good draft variants coming from them.
Yeah, I just want to quickly touch on the Shen as well, that the big issue that you often see with Shen in comp is that you want to be able to use his ultimate to save a key carry. But if you're doing that, it's also hard to frontline at the same time. So if you do end up in 5v5 fights, then the difficulty comes, say they have, even if you're on the side lane and they have TP up, you want to Shen ult, but you're also not there to frontline at the same time. And so you've got these two sort of split ideas when it comes to playing Shen in comp. And I'd be interested to see how much, if we have much, I probably don't have very much practice, but whether they have the instinct to play with a Shen like this, whether, you know, how the lanes go. Often Shen lanes are pretty strong. I want to be looking at top lane, but for me, in general, this game, we also got to be looking at bot early on.
Yeah,
it's Lucian Nami into mid game as well, puts a lot of control in the game. Like, you know, you generally control bot lane and they look to control mid in the mid game. So I have to see if this Dragdar Lucian and Kittenly Nami can have their way with the side of BROD and friends.
For sure. I mean, Lucian Nami is just a classic bot lane through and through, right? It used to be that incredibly strong double electrocute combo that could be absolutely abused. You know, it's since been phased out after changes, but it still brings a lot of burst. If a bubble can be landed, the amount of follow-up coming up from that right away is there. But Leona and Kai'Sa, they also bring a decent chunk themselves. Sure, Kai'Sa scales into their burst a bit more. They have to get their abilities upgraded and their first items through first. But once they get there, there's a decent amount of mobility and follow-up coming from that side too. So I definitely have to agree that this bot side is going to be for sure where a lot of action can happen. It's really going to come down to how these players.
And we'll see whether the junglers give that much attention, as we just see the standard sort of line of scrimmage and the 5-point defending. The Kennen, as we see, is mid lane with electrocute. I believe we see some Kennens, at least on the Korean ladder. I think there was there a French guy went over and played it? It's a champion that can have a huge amount of burst with the electrocute and takes a lot of mid laners sometimes by surprise with the amount of damage that champion can do. So has also gone for, said it, the ignite, not got TP on the Kennen. So it's going to be looking to get that kill early on, maybe off of a Pantheon stun from like a 3-camp gank or something like this, because that's the sort of dynamic we're expecting when you're playing a champ like Kennen in the mid lane. You're not messes, maybe you're maybe trying to catch people off guard. And I just hope to hear that we see a decent game on, because we've been hyping this game up a lot, right, Dubby? We've been hyping up Inkwit versus BROD. BROD obviously losing in their final game of the regular season to Inkwit, but it wasn't a stomp by any means. It was BROD and friends looking decent, and Inkwit really running, getting the win in the end through just being sort of better players, maybe individually hands wise. Don't worry about this. It's just a sad little pause that we get sometimes in the old League of Legends. But I'm just excited for today. I'm just really excited. It's quite difficult to really predict a game like this, and with these surprise picks, I'm just really wanting BROD and friends to have a good showing, because we've all been hyping them up quite a lot, or at least I have, and some of the others have said that they're decent, and I just want to see them come in today, at least get it be a 2-1 in one direction, because I'm a bit worried when you have a team coming in 9-0. We had it last split with Venom Crest. We don't want to have a sweep through the league.
3-0, 3-0.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just want to see good showings against them, and I think it could come through today. I'm more excited almost for the game 2s and game 3s to see where they go in draft, because we already know about Inkwit's champ pools and whether they'll go for that. We'll have to see on that. But the game in front of us, we'd imagine, is going to be a bit of some early game shenanigans around the bot side and maybe in mid for BROD friends.
And if it's anything like how Thursday's game went, we saw Pulp on the Pantheon as well. Same kind of situation. He got ahead early game, got some of those kills, kind of played Pantheon early, how you're meant to, just being very aggressive, getting some early skirmishes in, using his just simple abilities, you could say, just to click on target stuns. You don't necessarily have the follow-up like a Talia mid like you did on Thursday. Instead, you have a Kennen. Kennen can follow up and will be able to stun you with the abilities too. Not as similar as Talia, but can still get that damage going. So I'm interested to see how this kind of duo come together. And just Kennen in general. Once that champion scales through, the Maelstrom ultimate, it's just so impactful in these team fights. And it could be the kind of situation where, we're talking about how can Shen frontline if he's not there. Is Kennen the kind of champion to kind of rush in and help you get the kill before Shen can even teleport with your own ultimate?
And is there anything to really save you from a flash Kennen ultimate as well, right? Like usually you see if you hear Kennen players, they say, I don't want to see an Alistair. I don't want to see a Janna, for example. Nothing that knocks me out of that fight once I get in there. And here there's only really there's the Nami wave. There's a very inconsistent Talia knockback. Jarvan is not going to be, Wukong rather is going to be knocking you up but not knocking you out. And then the Shen. So Kennen could have a pretty easy way of it this game. And we think we did. I don't remember the Des mentioning was the change in AP itemization on this patch as well. We've seen Proto Belt get patched or buffed. We've seen a number of these items change, and this could change what we view as the dynamics within mid lane. Leandri's got nerfed, for example, just 10 AP lost off that item. So maybe when we're going into playoffs with these item changes, there's going to be a few things maybe coming around that, like Horizon Focus, right? This item has now been changed as well with none of that damage boost. And so it's possible we see some picks rise and fall with the item changes that came through. Possible.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for sure. Like, there's a lot of different opportunities here, and that's why you can get some creativity in these drafts. You know, it's always interesting in seeing, like, let's say these tank matchups, top lane as well. Like, there's been big talks about what champion items these tanks want to build, with the Heartsteel first slowly being phased out. But when you're seeing like a Sion versus Shen, both these champs in theory could easily proc this Heartsteel against each other. So, you know, for sure, I wouldn't be surprised if Sion built it first, because this guy can just really free farm a lot of free health from it. If Shen's going to want to opt into that first as well, they, you know, obviously Shen, the champion, does enjoy extra bonus health, but they might want to prioritize other kind of items, maybe to help with some wave clear or just help with some trading damage. Because if this, you know, if they want to win the game, they're going to have to go for it. But yeah. Now, I do see that we have some tech issues. That's why we're in a pause right now. You know,
we're filling time.
Yeah, classic tech issues as it does go, and we'll have to say we're good to go as far as I'm aware, though. So we should be back in fairly soon.
Yeah, we should.
Okay, we're going back in now, even faster. Not even putting more time, but yeah, no, we'll see how these top laners build out these items.
Well, we're back
here
in 5 minutes.
There was a first blood.
There was a
first blood. Yes.
So this discussion about the Shen, how he's going to play it into the sun, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Hopefully, maybe we can get a replay file later after this game goes down to see how that went down, because usually Shen is a very, very strong early laner, a lot of damage early on, and Shen maybe not respecting, or Sion rather not respecting that, as we just see. Look at the damage already taken onto the Sion in this matchup, who's already died once. It's not easy, but we, as you said, Sion, build Heartsteel, scale, get W. Health stack, scale, and that's kind of what we're expecting from this top lane matchup, is just the scaling. We don't, you know, very rarely do you see an absolute Shen masterclass coming through in competitive.
Yeah, and I mean, especially in this situation when we compare to last game, you know, there's already a difference in tone coming here from Int Quick. At, you know, Thursday, it was a bit more pressure from BROD. BROD was getting the first dragons and everything here. But with his first blood over to Int Quick, especially on this top side, getting it winning there. And looking at the lane situations here, we can't touch on too much what happened on the early game. But Karina is able to pick up this Mountain Dragon for free, which is going to be such just great resistances to really just help seal in this early game slight lead they have. Sure, the gold's about even, but it feels a bit more. You can tell the pressure's there. There's even Polk. They might try something spicy here, but I can't imagine too much going through.
Yeah, just a dragon being pulled up, that means no possible steal coming over. We do also see here BROD and friends swapping back up to top lane. You've got to remember, with the changes to the grubs, these sort of early game swaps are a lot worse, as QQR, he's going on BZ.
BZ getting engaged on hard will actually get killed by QQR there, and that's an essential picking coming right before these grubs spawn.
We had questions about the Kennen. You can see there, doesn't need to dash, and therefore the Taliyari does absolutely nothing to stop the QQR getting on top of BZ. And this is a sort of beginning where we were hoping to see maybe a Kennen get a few kills, because it is a champion, if you get fed on, it's quite strong, as Karina here, expecting a buff to be taken. She's very cautious. She has got support of Kittenly, and they will end up leaving this one, BROD and friends. However, the next thing we need to look at is the grubs. See how they're fighting for it, because BROD, they already swapped for this very early, possibly to also take Sion out of that difficult matchup he was experiencing in the top lane, and the swap's now coming through for 5 IQ. We could see a fight here for the grubs within the next, you know, once it spawns. It's going to be a contest. It's got to be contested, right? If you are the side of 5 IQ, you really, really like the idea of denying BROD and friends any into this game when you've already managed to pick up that early dragon.
Yeah, you want to keep those objectives on your advantage right here, and we'll have to see how Inquick can play this, because that's an essential ultimate on cooldown from QQR here. An engage going on to Dragdar here, but it's just going to be a bit of a damage check. Can't get more out of it, but with the shoved in lane, this should be a nice opportunity for them to pick up these grubs.
It should be, however, don't forget there is not going to be a Kennen ultimate available, and BZ, with that wall not leveled yet, will have the ability to take that point in his ultimate and join this fight. So Karina, she's looking to contest potentially. She's just scouting around. Hold on, she's just going to look for a kill on QQR potentially in mid lane instead.
Yeah, they will force the flash out of this cannon. Can get more, but this could be the collapse danger. They have secured 2. So that will give them at least some stacking as they dash onto the clone. Hope gets thrown into the minefield as everyone's stunned up, and Cyclone knocking up everybody, as that's 2 kills going over to End Quick. making it 3 in a minute, and right then and there, InQuick take over this game.
And you see there, in quick, they first make the play on the mid lane. Talia was used to make sure the flash from the cannon was gone. The timer on the cannon ultimate was so close. It was just coming up before they ended up falling. And then you see the Shen ult. It isn't cancelled by Akkers. And so that ends up being a 5 versus 4. And the beginning of that fight wasn't looking good for BROD and friends. The ending definitely didn't. And I think now, if you are BROD, you've not been able to pick up those grubs. You're just going to go back there straight away. Porp's entire jungle is up. He is significantly behind in farm. And you see the gold difference in jungle. It may look like a lot, but it is 500. In the top lane, there's another 500 gold difference as well. The only real difference in favor of BROD is in the mid lane.
And I like how InQuick instantly reset there, leaving that one grub up, because they wanted to get that gold in their pockets. They knew they didn't need to take it right away, so let's get gold, get our reset in. Porp gonna use the smite to get that Scuttle Crab away. No, actually, no, Karina actually managing to secure that. But it's still a fine situation, because they can get the Scuttle Crab uncontested, and at least have some of those stats. Won't be able to get the full 3 to get those grubs spawning, but it's still a really nice way to have it.
And it feels also worse for Port, right? Because you're already behind in CS pretty significantly as Kitney's here just to harass out and zone off this Scion. You are quite far behind right now as Port in terms of farmers. We see a dive in the bot lane onto the Shen.
They're gonna try and hit this Shen, but this Shen incredibly tanky right now. The CC chain is being pulled. Zeta tanking up this tower, but Spark won't quite have enough damage. QQR coming in with the Ignite, picks up that kill.
And we see Port here just covering the mid lane as well, so not much gold or XP lost to make that play. Yes, Kennen ends up dropping away, but it does go into the pockets of his jungler. So QQR, in this first game, showing up pretty big. We've had questions, I know Temporal did as well, about how good QQR's been on the back end of BROD split, last split, and then coming into this split. But Karina, she's on the hunt for Spark. Can she pick up the AD carry?
Does have flash available, will opt in to use it, trading at 1-for-1, and that's 2 cooldown. Both these flashes going down is going to be interesting when this dragon spawns in about 50 seconds.
At least Kai'Sa does have that mobility, right, of their ultimate, I can't remember what it's called now, my brain is completely blanked, but Killer Instinct, I think that's the name of it. As you know, we see just some trades up. Look at Akkers having not the greatest time in this top matchup. As we also see, look, you talked about itemization. Shen is going towards a Tiamat, so he's probably going towards what will be a Titanic Hydra. Going to get that wave clear online and going to be able to just easily clear sides and look for decent ultimates potentially into team fights. As you know, even though the early game kill did go over to the Shen, Akkers has been able to at least get a CS lead here. So the only real lane that's really not having the best time is bot lane for BROD and friends, and then obviously jungle matchup has not been the best for Porp, but they're going to be looking to fight this dragon whether Porp's strong or not, because they really can't be giving over too many more advantages to 5IQ. Kinley's got to be a bit careful.
Does drop the ward in there, but is able to walk out of there. And I like how we're seeing both these top laners just effectively proxy farm there. BROD is trying to take some vision control here. Will actually flash forward onto Karina, but they will use the Cyclone to try and dodge out and everything. The Shen stand aside shield won't save them long enough as they survive. Zeta on a slither of health, but they need to be careful because BZ is above them, wall available, and could opt in to use it.
And Sion has already walked all the way down here, so if you are BROD, you're happy to keep on going. BZ, he's caught out.
There's the engage, the Maelstrom used, but they will be knocked back. Here comes the Unstoppable from the Scion, will connect, and that is another kill going into QQR's pocket.
Another kill, but maybe not the objective, because we see here the bot lane of 5IQ are holding their ground because Zeta had to base, so starting this dragon for BROD and friends, having used all those ultimates, is quite risky. And if you are Karina here, you could potentially look just to go and start it pretty much immediately, because Spark really wants to get a base off and get a bit of HP back. QQ are no ultimate. So I have to see here, 5IQ, they go, yeah, you may have won that fight, but we're just going to go again.
Exactly, and there's a TP available for BZ. They are coming into this mid lane. Akkers, no TP. Shen doesn't have anything either, so this will just be a flat-out 4v4. We do see Porp hiding off on the side, Dragon dropping low as here comes the engage, but they are collapsed from both sides as BROD needs to try and get out of this one alive. Zeta dropping low but is on the run. Meanwhile, BROD is focusing down BZ. Will hunt that person down. QQR trying to get it with the auto attacks. Will trade 1-for-1, but that is a second dragon over to InQuick.
And right now, if you are the side of Inkwick, you can now start doing the Lucianami thing if you want to. You've got that Essence Reaver online, got it online quite a while ago, didn't manage to bring that up earlier, but has got Essence Reaver and had it for a while. You can now Lucianami, just simply chuck all your stuff as the Nami onto Lucian, have him dash forward, make sure you're getting that prio in mid lane, and let's be honest, the only way you're really contesting that if you are BROD and friends is sending multiple members to jump on the Lucian as he dashes forward, and that's going to be quite difficult because the sort of cycle you see is Lucianami push forward, you secure the vision around them so they can't be collapsed upon, and then keep forcing and forcing until you manage to get this mid turret down. As your hope here, if you're BROD and friends, is how fed QQR is. And at the moment, without a TP as well, running that Ignite, it's going to be harder for this Kennen to really take a side lane and then also impact a fight. So how are you going to be getting your gold in? It looks like Kennen is going to be the one assigned to mid lane, and Kais is the one assigned to face into the Shen, which is not the most common lane assignment. But honestly, if you're BROD, you need this Kennen in every fight possible, and to have slicing Maelstrom up as often as possible in those fights.
Yeah, this is gonna slowly bite them back, because there are effectively 3 points of global teleports available for Quick if you count the ultimate from Shen as well. So that right there is just a great way they can opt in to play the map if they so choose. And also, look how much damage Quick have here across all their champions, all their items. Nami just completed the Imperial Mandate, so that will enhance someone so much. Titanic Hydra on the Shen, it's a great situation as Pope might have stepped up a bit too far, is gonna get chunked down, as now they're hunting down Zeta. The flash taunt doesn't quite connect. QQR fails, flashes into the wall. What are we doing there? As they will try to hunt down this Leona. Nami using the bubble to speed up the Leona, but it won't quite be enough as they'll TP to defend this top side.
And I know it would be weird to say that was just a, one player fooling for the side of BROD and friends, but I think that's pretty in-depth. Oh no, it's going again. Never mind, Karina's seat got blood in her eyes.
Looking for more as they get the Cyclone onto Spark, able to use their own shield to keep themselves alive, but Lucian says no. Picking up a kill. Here comes the Pope, though. Will get bubbled up and CC'd, able to get the Spirit in time. Is trying to chase down this Nami. Will use the move speed from the shield. Smites to slow them a bit more. Is on the hunt. Only needs a few more autos, but the bubble will let them live.
And this is kind of what you do see in a lot of Inkwick games, is they will continue to extend, as you see, yes, despite the fact that they did manage to pick up Spark and Zeta, it wasn't even trade in that scenario going for that play. But let's just talk about what happened a bit before that. You ended up having Port playing far too aggressive. They're playing Lucian Nami. They're going to generally have mid push unless you are fighting multiple members or a numbers advantage fight in the mid lane to get your mid wave pushed in. And so Lucian just walks there, is first to play, and then very sadly, QQR in a situation where that could be the Kennen ult of ages, just fails the flash over a very thick wall. It is a difficult flash to do, but it's the flash you need to in that scenario, because let's be honest, it feels a little bit like BROD reacting, and Spark, he's caught, he's got no ultimate, he's only got barrier.
Spark gone in the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, that's just disrespectful right there. Like, you cannot be in that position against this Taliyah with the ultimate available, and it feels like BROD's just losing a bit of control over this game. They've made a few very just silly mistakes, and that one there just to really seal it, giving over now this Herald for free. Akers is there trying to put some kind of pressure on, but I can't imagine there'll be too much the side can do on their own.
He's simply there just to annoy them, right? It's simply to make them maybe feel like there are other members of BROD around that might be contesting, as they were going for a play onto Kerberos in the bot side, and it does come through. So QQR does pick up another kill there. Just want to mention that Spark there, you say was being disrespectful, it was also VivaQ doing the right thing. They've got Lucianami in mid, and then all they're doing is collapsing on the mid lane to secure mid push, and then making a play off of that. BROD right there, only Spark was really in the area of mid at all. So it's going to be the case that Spark is always going to be in a numbers disadvantage. And with the amount of damage Lucian does, you only need a little bit more damage coming out of one other member of VivaQ, and your AD carry will fall on the side of BROD and friends. So I think VivaQ, despite we say they're a streamer team, they don't practice, they obviously play in very high elo games. We know that to be true. But they're also showing a lot of control in this game around and playing to how their champions want to be played. Lucian Nami pushes mid, look for a play with a Taliyah wall, and then rinse and repeat around the objective timers. It's really good to see VivaQ in playoffs playing what, at least until they overdove in bot lane, seems to be quite a clean game.
Definitely, I mean, looking at Dragdar right here, they have the Infinity Edge completed on this Lucian now. That is so much damage coming through. This QQR tries to get into something there with the move speed. This is really the hope we have from BROD and Friends right here. The amount of damage this QQR cannon can get off with these 2 items completed. The Storm Surge there as well, just bringing out a lot of extra pen. As here we go, Flash engage on the BZ. The damage isn't enough to follow up, as we won't get any kills left. QQR sitting on a ward on the side. And this whole time, Kerberos happily split pushing, does have the stand united if they so choose to use it. Dragon has been started up by BROD. The culling used to get QQR pretty low as Zeta tries to flash forward. Stun use, cleanse, as this is a very low Lucian. Is getting focused down and will get killed. Here comes the Pantheon from downtown, trying to get a bit more damage off. Spark hitting who they can, but will inevitably get taken down from BZ, who's alive, hitting from the side, and will take down 2, 3, and now 4, as Acker's last man standing on the top.
And 5 IQ there, they just, yes, they get poked out a little bit, but the person poked out, or jumped on rather, by Porp's flash stun was the Talia. It was the one with teleport. Talia simply takes a base, comes back into the fight. Doesn't even need to use wall there, Dubby. Still has wall available. As it ends up being that QQ are also playing on an angle which makes a lot of sense, right? It's understandable why you want to get the flanks as Kennen. But if you're 5IQ, you know that's how they want to be playing, because Kennen doesn't have flash, simply just has Proto Belt. So Dragdar pushes Kennen out of the fight. And then there's nothing really left there for BROD and Friends. Yes, they get the ultimate. Yes, they get the Leona ultimate and the Kennen ultimate, rather, on top of Dragdar, on top of this Lucian. But it's just not enough as Spark. He's not at space gliding territory yet, Dubby. He's not, you know, in that Chi game, the clip that rings in my head every time we go on a stream, that he isn't at that point. He's not that fed compared to like he was in that game. He isn't sitting there hitting every member and three-shotting them. He doesn't have the IE. He's going towards the Rage Blade, right? In this game, he's not going towards Yuntal, I should say, but he's not got that damage from either the crit Kaiser build or the on-hit Kaiser build. It's not on there just yet. He still needs maybe in this build to get the Nashes to poke them down first. So at the moment, if you're BROD, you are kind of holding on to see, can Spark get online? Because that is going to be a major source of damage if you're going to be able to get stun procs from Kennen off of multiple members. It's going to be on the back of Spark. Despite him not having the best score, he is going to be the carry for BROD if this is going to go the way of them in the first game.
And you just got to keep in mind that the damage check that Inquick have here, like everything was thrown onto Dragdar. They did kill them, but that's just, look at the items from everyone else. There's so much extra damage coming from this rest of Inquick squad that it's not enough to just focus one. You have to somehow get everyone at once and really try to utilize the AoE damage this cannon can bring out. We're going to have to see if they can do it. The flash is now available, and with this Atacon that's now bot side, this is another objective that BROD and Friends can use to try and bring in Quick into a fight.
They're starting it.
Like they'll start it. Yeah, they will start it up. There's a TP available for the Shen as well if they want to get Kerberos in here a bit sooner. QQR in that tri-bush, using it to keep them away, as they will get an engage. Here comes Kennen on the flank, will use the Proto Belt, flash forward. However, there's a flash for the Lucian, will get Dragdar out, as again, they're really trying to get something going, but they can't force the fight, as now the collapse! The collapse from Inquick coming in, cancelling the knockup from Sion, as now BROD and Friends is split up and running in different directions, trying to escape out of this one. They're kiting so nicely against Karina. Spark is going to be able to trade back up to 1 kill. Meanwhile, topside, they are still split up there. Spark does dodge away from the taunt, is only going to be able to run back to the tower, but this is a very tanky Shen who is not too scared to run under tower from here. Cancels one auto attack, flashes away from the taunt, but the W block will block an auto, trading 1 for 1.
Spark almost coming up massive there, at least gets the shutdown in the end as Zeta, you know, will fall to support all combat, Kitterly picking that kill up. You see what BROD was trying to go for, bait them in to the Atacon, have them come from both sides, and then when you see the Lucian army, jump on it, because imagine this, you've got full health bars versus full health bars. Then Lucian presses culling before every single fight, and someone on the side of BROD has to block it. Even if Port blocks it with the Pantheon, it's not enough, right? It's still going to be doing a lot of damage, and that's not the fact that Dragdar could reposition it, you know, dash across and maybe start hitting QQR. So the big thing here is BROD and Friends know we're going to have to snap engage onto one side and go now, and it looks like they might have just got it, but the edge of the cannon wasn't quite enough to lock them all down, and it ends up being a collapse that results in BROD really losing out quite badly there, as at least Atacon doesn't fall. At least Kaiser gets a shutdown, but this isn't quite enough for BROD at the moment. Look at Kaiser's items. She really wishes she had not just the Nashes, but a Zonya's, to be honest with you, in this game, to be able to survive as she dashes in. So if you are Spark, you're sort of saying to your team, listen, get me that Nashes and maybe we can do something. As QQI, he's going to have to dash away. Look how low he's chunked by Dragdar already.
Here comes the full Zeta, forced to take some damage in return, trading for the mistakes that were made there. And it's like, the kills are going over to BROD. That last fight wasn't the worst, because they did get some gold, but it's just not enough gold they need right now, and especially with that pick onto Zeta. This Finn Quick roster can pick up this Otacon, getting another one of these monster objectives towards their already existing 3 dragons. As I do like this rotation for BROD and BROD of Friends, setting 3 people topside to try and pick up the Shen. Kerberos, incredibly tanky here, will eventually fall down, I'm sure, but it might take some time.
Yeah, it will take some time, but eventually should give it to Spark as well, hopefully. Oh my god. That was very close to Curb surviving with a sliver of HP. Pork ends up picking up their killers. The Atacon goes over. This is the Thornbound Atacon of the new Rift. Very, very strong. And if you are BC, wait, hold on. What are you doing here, buddy?
That's a good force onto BZ there, getting another kill. Not over to Spark, but it's a kill in the end. That will be a tower as well. However, Dragdar trading aggressively onto Porp here. Does have the Nami to buff them up. Will get stunned. Knockup won't connect, as that will just be a nice kill. But you know what? If you're the side of BROD and Friends, you're happy to take that little gold.
You're happy to take that, but are you happy to give this dragon, as Karina's started up, this will be Ocean Soul for 5 IQ, and that's not necessarily what you want to be seeing already in a difficult game. It's not the best soul it could have been, right? Ocean Soul has been nerfed over the many years we've had the elemental dragons in the game, but it's still not an objective you wish you were giving, as we see QQR already moving down. They're already predicting that Karina's soloing this.
Yeah.
But just goes over. That's Ocean Soul. And now if you're BROD, you've got to run away, because look at your health bars. You're not fighting this healthy here.
Gonna run back to their towers, as that soul was picked up before even Baron spawns. I mean, this is a pre-25 minute Ocean Soul. Quick has been speed running this game in the objective side, and you know we need BROD to play this game into their comp, right? They have this all in, they have this CC. We haven't been seeing them able to collapse it yet. I mean, looking at the side from this Quick team, they haven't gotten a clean ace, because Kittenly is on 3-0-14, having an excellent performance on this Nami. And it's still not do or die. I feel like BROD does have this comp where they can flip it in an instance if they find that engage, but Quick is not giving it to them.
And I just want to shout out, obviously Karina has a really good score, as BC's jumped on again. Unlucky, buddy. You're the target of BROD's ire today. I was going to quickly, I know Karina's had a good game, but I really want to shout out Dragdar, who is obviously incredibly aware about what his job is on this Lucian. Again, looks for mid-push, and then before every fight, looks to get a culling onto a crucial member, usually preferably QQR, and then they can't look for the aggressive cannon ultimate, and it results in a beneficial fight for Quick, but then you have the Wukong coming on top, Cyclone on top, Cyclone across the entire team fight, lots of damage thanks to this Trinity Force and the Sundered Sky. So just want to give a quick shout out to the bot lane really of 5IQ, in particular Dragdar, who's honestly played a really good game so far, despite being a target in a couple of these fights where you can see again, they're playing by the book. Let's get push in mid, I can dash forward if I need to, I suspect there are members behind him. Dragdar's got to be careful.
They don't have the ultimates there to take that down, and look how low this BROD and Friends team dropped from just a single ultimate from this Lucian. Also, keep in mind, how safe can this Lucian play?
Exactly.
They have the cleanse, they have Mikhails on Nami, heal on Nami, flash available for both. Like, you can even play a bit more upfront and aggressive because you have all those safety tools ready to keep you alive, and this Lucian is going to be incredibly hard to track down and kill in these teamfights.
And that's the difficulty as well. Like, we saw them banning out stuff like the Nautilus, which, you know, could just press the R key on the Lucian, you get on top of him. Leona finds it a lot more difficult, right, because of all of the survival tools you just pointed out. So, if you are BROD and Friends here, you've kind of never been able to get push in mid. Even if you bring members, all Dragdar does is play a little bit more defensive, but then culls one of your team members to half HP, and then he gets mid push on the next wave anyway. And so I think that if you are BRODs here, you're going to have to look for a way to either force in mid, or maybe look for a force around Baron or Elder or something like this, where you're not just playing for the waves, because at the moment you're really locked inside of your half of the jungle. Look at Porp, he's forced out of his bot side. There's no control on the map left for BROD and Friends. The only way forward is probably through those objectives.
Yeah, they set up a good vision line around this Baron, and Quick is quickly respecting that and just playing to the other side of the map. This Shen having so much priority over the Sion here. Sion cannot trade into how much damage Kerberos can bring out on this champion. Meanwhile, again, mid-side, Lucian going in, but a huge fight from QQR. Everything being used to jump onto this Lucian getting the kill there. Spark is on the space gliding moment. However, BZ is able to hit QQR while Nazonia is flashing away. Here's the Shen showing up, getting some damage, but it's not enough as BZ survives on a sliver of health. The Ocean Soul putting in absolute work as only Pork and Akers survive.
And Akers here is taking an awful lot of damage. You'd hope that he gets out here so that BROD survive in this game. He should do. It looks like it's going to be all right. He's just going to clear the wave. He doesn't really care about the Sion hitting him under the turret because he's just going to end up going for the cannon anyway. As we see here, the side of 5IQ, they're going to be going for this Baron. They're going to start it with 3 members. There is the jungler still alive on the side of BROD and Friends with his ultimate, with Flash. They have to be a little bit careful. Corp's aware of this. He is going to try and go for it because he kind of has to, right? He can't give them Baron and let them siege again because that was your best chance. However, let's not forget you've learned all the sums as Akers is going in.
They're going in, will connect onto the Claude as Kerberos is trading back onto Corp. This Baron health bar not being reset yet as they are trying to trade back on this Vision. They're playing a bit slower as the bot lanes from both teams have now respawned, bringing this out into 5v5. Look how low Karina is on these health bars. Wukong in a bit of a risk as Kerbal's trying to frontline here, but there's so much damage coming out from this Lucian. The ultimate from Leona won't connect as they're trying to hunt them down. Focus onto Kerberos. Baron secured by 5IQ as here comes the ultimate from Pantheon, separating the team from BROD and Friends. No one being killed yet except Pope dying on the side, and now that's the numbers advantage leading towards the side of Inquick. A kill for Dragdar, looking for more. The wall cutting off QQR's escape. Spark on their own, able to peel back away from Karina. Playing it slow as now they're on the full escape run. Trying to get back to their base. They're going to have to fight this one out. Karina flashing forward. We'll get the Cyclone onto Cannon. And that is the not quite ace over. There it is. Ace for Inquick.
And the dilemma that you often see in these Shen games, can you frontline or can you side lane? Kerberos says, I'm just going to stand in front of my team, take all of your damage, all of your CC, and there's nothing you can do about it. As here you are, Inquick. They're moving towards the Nexus. They're going to be looking to maybe go for the end here, potentially, although it is going to be quite difficult. There are people respawning for the side of BROD and Friends. Maybe just an inhibitor and get out. But that is a game-winning fight there for the side of Inquick, right? They managed to zone them off. Karina stays on the Baron, gets it down despite her being very low. There were no summoners available for the side of BROD to get on top of Dragdar, despite him having Flash down, despite him having Cleanse down. He survives, and then they just turn, they just clean up the fight off of the Tilia wall, where if you are BROD now, it's desperation, isn't it? The Elder is spawning in 13 seconds. You've got to be there. Get your waves pushed the best you can, sprint to the dragon, and hope that your hands diffing are hands diff team.
Yeah. This Inquick game has come out absolutely excellent. I mean, the one thing we asked for this game was a nice Shen game, and you know what? Kerberos, I think this man has definitely delivered on it. This Shen pick has looked so good through and through, winning the lane, getting strong in the mid game, and keeping everyone alive to the point where he is now such an unkillable tank and is still able to trade back the damage. I mean, looking at the gold lead right here, we can see about 2,000 on the entire top side. However, on the mid and 80 carry, it's just about even. And speaking of a bit of a desperation from the side of BROD, they are hitting this Elder. As this is their moment. Look at QQR, though, up on the top. Is in a good position to look for something. Is going to have to run around the long way over the wall. Does actually walk right into this Dragdar, but the cleanse is used to keep them alive. Zhonya's will only buy them a moment for their inevitable death as they go down. Spark desperately trying to kite away onto Karina, but cannot connect the Void Seeker as they will get chased down. Goes golden, but it's just too little. And with that, BZ can end this game.
And as we see 5IQ, Inquick, whatever you want to call them, they come up trumps in the first game in a game where, honestly, the side of BROD, a couple members did have a hard time. I just want to say, Porp in this game, he's not been looking too good, but the side of 5IQ,
yeah,
genuinely very solid across the board. Big shout outs to their bot lane here, playing Lucian Army. We haven't seen it in a long time. It's not been in comp for a while, but this game, they looked absolutely incredible. And let's not forget, they've still got stuff like Lulu in the tank. They've still got the other champions available to them. We've seen Dragdar's Varus. We've seen Dragdar's MF. We've seen a bunch of champions. So they've still got stuff available here. They haven't even given up all of those sort of one tricks you want to say. The only thing you can say is BZ's Talia. That's now gone, where does he go? But other than that, Inquick looking phenomenal in this game, to be honest with you. Like, they're playing so well.
Inquick, just absolute fantastic performance, especially coming off the game Thursday where they looked a bit shaky in the early game, but came back into the mid late. Here, they didn't look shaky at all. They won the mid, they won the early, and they won the late, and it was just a consistent clean League of Legends. BROD was always in the situation where they felt like they had to force the plays, they had to do something, and InQuick was able to take in those plays, react to them appropriately, and get more from it every time, which did inevitably lead to their win. Early Soul, first Baron, just everything going towards them. So a very, very dominant performance overall from them.
Even if BROD picked up even kills, InQuick also got the objectives, right? The only thing you could say BROD got in this game was 2 grubs. They got 2 grubs, and that cost them as well. That cost them in a fight. So I think go back to drawing board maybe for BROD, maybe a few of the sort of basics where it's like, you know, playing around mid prio and then playing into objectives maybe needs to be thought of here. This is what happened around the grub play as a prime example. Karina goes mid and gets a flash out of QQR, then plays with her mid laner towards the grubs. And then pretty much for the rest of the game, it was push mid, get objective. Push mid, get objective. And BROD didn't really have an answer. They just looked for snap engage plays, and there wasn't anything in the tank. Back to the drawing board a little bit for BROD. Have to see what they come up with in draft 2. Remember, this is Fearless, so we won't see these champs again.
Exactly
Wonder what is priority next.
Yeah, these champs, the Shen, we won't see any more Shen. We won't see any more of this Sayo. We won't see any more of this Talia, as we'll get into a fresh draft very, very soon. However, we're going to go into a short break first before we'll be back with the desk and they'll break down this game. So we'll see you guys again then.
Welcome back, everybody, to the analyst desk. After our first game in the books, Inquick taking the victory over BROD and friends. And now, folks, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not a super negative guy, right? I don't like to go on and hate. I'm not a hater by blood, but I thought this was a pretty ugly game from BROD and friends. I don't know, man. I didn't like this one from them. I thought they looked pretty rusty. I thought they looked pretty rough today. Now, Frisky, I know you have maybe not quite as strong of an opinion as I do on this, but given what we know about Inquick, what we know about how they like to play, and what we saw BROD and friends kind of struggle with in this game, what is your kind of review of BROD and friends in this game? Because like I say, I wasn't happy with it.
Was I muted the whole time?
Probably.
Okay, probably. Well,
you could just pick it up, to be honest.
I mean, if you're hearing it, okay, I think that's good enough. But all right, we're good enough.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily the best thing for BROD this match. And if we talk about, if everybody in the caster areas and all the people are like, who's the biggest hater here? I think me would be one of the top ones.
You'd be up there. You're on the podium for sure.
I would be up there too, which is not, I got nothing wrong with that. I tell it like it is. But I think there are some things that BROD can be happy about. I think they look for their fights okayly for most of the time. I think that they were looking to set up for the Kennen pretty well. I think if that flash had gone the way of QQR, they probably would have been in a much better game scenario. But at the same time, they just fought around objectives really terribly the entire time. You know, as a coach, I would say we need to go and take what was good from the match. Obviously, like, okay, we set up our fights really well. It's just that, like, that fight in the mid lane at the end, we didn't necessarily go onto the right targets after the main damage was done, and we didn't necessarily talk about the objective plays a lot more. So let's talk about the good stuff. You know, let's say like, okay, we did this well, we fought really well, we got our Kennen fed pretty well, and BZ was pretty ineffective that entire of the game. We were catching out people relatively well to get side lane pressure. I think BROD can, if they focus on that, they can try to turn things around. But overall, I mean, Inquick just had the stronger game no matter what. You know, Spark was, effectively just the best player on a dying team, just trying to get kills no matter what, just working on himself. I wasn't meant to be so nice, but like, okay, dying team, they were all dying around him, and he was just trying to get kills. BROD's definitely not gonna be happy with me calling him that.
Well, maybe they should play better, and we wouldn't say it.
Yeah, I mean, if they played better, it would help. But I mean, the impact of Dragdar's Lucian was just obviously very easy to see there. How much he was able to poke with the culling out, I think, just made the game so much harder for BROD.
Yeah, Melee, let's talk a little bit more about Inquick. Let's talk about the winning team right here, because this is kind of the standard. This is an Inquick game that we expect to see, right? It's a little bit of chaos. Everyone's kind of going every which way. The mechanics are on point, and it seemed like their punish game was just crazy as always.
Yeah, and I feel like it started early on if we're looking at the top lane, right? I think we were a little hesitant about, the whole top lane scenario. Akkers did not have fun this game at all. So I'm like, oh, okay, so the front line for BROD and friends was lacking a little bit, and that is thanks to Kerberos doing a great job in laning phase. His ultimates most of the time hit quite well. Not always. There were some that just missed a teeny bit, but yeah, he definitely did a great job there, and I think overall they seemed a lot more focused, and judging from outside, obviously it looked like they had better communication as to what they want to commit for, right? Because I feel like the main issue for BROD was that they didn't seem to be on the same page when it came to, are we turning to the objective, are we going for the fight, who are we going in for the fight for, like, what the and I think that's kind of
pretty much,
yeah,
like,
that's
says it all.
Go
ahead and describe it.
Comes, right? That's, no, but so judging from the outside, it seemed like Inquick were just a lot more focused on, okay, we're going for this, then we're committing on that member, we're going for the team fight here, and they did a great job at punishing the mistakes that BROD and friends did do. However, that's something that we can probably say about both teams. Like, BROD had some moments of comeback hopes where they did punish a tiny bit of overstepping from the side of Inquick, so there was potential for more there.
They understood how their comp was supposed to work, right? They were trying to set up a stun chain on the Lucian. They were trying to make this team fight stick, but it just seemed like the pieces were just not in the right place, man. They just could not actually come together correctly in this first game. But in the face of that, when the enemy team's CC chain is all over the place and they're playing alright, the kind of champion that makes mincemeat out of this situation is Lucian. And that brings us to our player of the game in game number 1. It's Dragdar, one half of our featured matchup here. Pog indeed, the skill shot lander himself. Big Lucian game, and we were chatting in the green room while we were watching that this feels like a game that when you've got your Nami, you've got your Shen, this is a Lucian that got 3 kills out of the gate very quickly in this game. You've got to be able to play on the front line, play on the edge, and Frisky, you were telling me, like, this needs to be, yeah, like the front line engage Lucian, the underrated engage Lucian that was, that I think Dragdar put on great display in this first game.
Well, it's just what a lot of ADCs like. I mean, they like champions with a dash. I mean, I've coached many who are like that because they want to be a little bit more aggressive and try to push out. I mean, obviously it's a very risky strat, but if you are aggressing at the right times when people are a little bit more prepared, especially when Lucian's calling has a decent amount of range, it can really throw people off and do a lot more poke damage, making the enemy teams engage for the next fight a lot more difficult because you've already got a ton of low champions. But I think this game is just a good example of just Dragdar's influence across the whole thing. I think it's going to be really hard to kind of ban him out. Maybe they want to ban the Lucian. I'm sure they'll probably stick to a Varus ban, but I think he's just, no matter what champion he's going to have some level of just incredible influence on the game.
Thankfully, they don't have to ban the Lucian because it's been fearless out of the window. It has been kicked from the lobby at this point, so they don't have to worry about that, but they might have to keep banning that Varus. Let's look at a couple of replays from this game before we get into the second draft, before the League Ops team come for me, because I can feel them breathing down my neck. So let's take a look at this, and Melee, let's take a look at one of these first fights, and it really just maybe we can see some of the disconnects and kind of we see what they're going for on the side of BROD,
yeah, but why? Like, what is Pop going for by himself on the side while the rest of the team was still in mid lane? And why are they deciding to go for Drake here? I mean, they do look like they're in a better position, but you can already see the damage coming out of this ultimate, especially now the Cannon, such an important member of this team, trying to make it work. The ultimate tries to get something, but it's just not enough, and then they are just really disconnected here again. Fight is being split up. You have the main damage dealers on the side of Inquick, just being able to kite it all out and, just reposition, and just put out some damage. I don't know. It was the first big fight where we probably felt like, not so sure, but let me spoiler you a little bit. It got worse.
It did get worse. We'll roll the second clip. We'll keep this one rolling to keep that one fresh in your minds. Keep the feeling fresh in your mind, guys, because it's going to be fairly consistent. Frisky, you can talk us through this one, but we can see that even when they killed the Lucian in that first fight, sometimes it's not enough. And here's the Zatakan play.
This is just weird because they're just like roaming around. Like, people are just going in for no reason. The tidal wave blocks everyone off. They all use the fact that they have some long range engages to try to go in, but that's 3 ultimates. I think 4 the Leona ult burned right off the bat just to try to kill a Nami and the Lucian. I know the Lucian's the main focus, but burning things that quickly never going to do good. And then if anything, this is a bit of an oversight play on the side of Inquick, on the fact that they're maybe chasing a little bit too hard when they really can just kill 1 or 2, on the fact that they burned 4 ultimates and go for them, and that kind of let Spark get a couple kills, and he obviously was able to get that 1-for-1 on the Shen there. But it's still just why you would even pull off from an Otacon that far away is just belies the point. If you're gonna pull off from the Otacon, and at least let them enter a bit closer into you, try to catch the Lucian and the Nami off guard when you've already set up the fact you have control of the Otacon space. Don't lose that control by going off. It's what I tell people: either finish the Otacon or get off of it immediately. Don't try to push and pull with it. Don't try to have your cake and eat it too, because it just never works out. Because people, that's one of the plays that just defines how they were just not on the same page.
Yeah, and we'll get the last replay up here as well. And we saw that so many of these plays somehow wind up with all 5 BROD stack members in a pincer of the rest. But this is one they ought to kind of play front to back Melee, and it still didn't really work out.
Yeah, it really did not. I mean, Akers is going in, but again, they're very, very split here, especially because there's just 2 members of them even in the area. Now we can see from the side, Inquick's moving in, same thing for BROD, and there are some funny things happening in the next few seconds. Just watch that Pantheon for a second. As we can see, there's a lot of damage again coming out from the culling. Nice solar flare trying to, delay that a little bit. And now we get the weirdest Pantheon ult I've ever seen in my entire life, because that Baron is gone and you're now stuck in the pit and dead.
Forgot how long the timer was.
Yeah, I mean, the timers are a big issue for sure, but it's it's a roughie, and now we can see how Intquick off of that was just able to clean it up. And again, their decision making was very, very good here because they decided to stick with the Baron. They tried to secure it. They had enough people trying to zone everyone else from BROD and friends away. So they did a great job here. Spark trying to trade something back. The bubble hits, and therefore he's dead as well. And it's just a roughie. I think for me, it's a bit of a GG go next type angle. They are very lucky that we're in fearless drafts, so that means some of these picks are not going to come out again. But I feel like they had a very winnable draft, and for them not to be able to make it work is a little shocking. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it felt like the most winnable game I've ever seen, where BROD just never seems to be winning at any point in these fights. I'd never win a single fight, but every time I'm like, nah, but this is so winnable. This is, if anything, it feels even more winnable now, despite that we're now 3 team fights deep and we haven't won one yet. Like, it was very, very strange. And to highlight as well, Spark, we gave Dragdar his flowers as player of the game here. We have to highlight the other side of that featured matchup. Spark was playing his little heart out, man. He was trying so hard on this Kai'Sa, cleaning up kills very, very well, trying to get the most out of this mobility, but there just wasn't enough pieces around him to enable that success. And it hurts BROD, I think, to lose this Kai'Sa, and like that Kai'Sa performance, but not get a win on it, right? Seeing him play the Kai'Sa to this level, but they don't walk away with a win, that is a pain that Fearless is gonna have to live with for BROD, where they're not gonna be able to go back to it again. Now, we are gonna go into the draft here. Hopefully, the League Ops won't be sending me hate mail for delaying it too long, but we'll see it come up
probably still will,
ASAP.
just FYI.
I know. Yeah, this League Ops team is a bit crazy, man.
We're all getting some. We'll share the wealth there.
You don't want to mess with League Ops.
I mean, League Ops, you know, you can't do with them, they can't do without you. Like, it's a crazy, toxic relationship, you know?
Can't live with them, can't live without them, League
roughie.
Ops. Tip your League Ops, everybody. Right, so when we go into the next draft right here, Frisky, what are we thinking? We're Fearless in right here. We'll see. I'm trying to check and see if we know which side BROD are. BROD are on red. Here it is. Here's the draft. So, Intquick now with the first pick. Now, assuming we still have a Varus ban, if the bans stay the same, which I imagine they do, what are we thinking for Intquick right here? Because we haven't thrown out like the Neferi. It's still on the ban table potentially. But what's the priority here for our new blue side team?
It's going to be weird on Fearless because you still maybe have 2 games. How much do you want to pull out right now? I feel like, Intquick maybe are going to try to go for the kill and, do something as, spectacular as possible. I still think they're probably going to want to look for a potential ADC. I think they want to get something that is going to help them kind of the same thing the Lucian would do, something that does really well in lane, something that Dragdar can use really well. But I think BZ is probably going to get some kind of assassin throughout here because, let's be real, he was the worst performer on that Intquick team, and he didn't do well. And I know he had a bad lane, but honestly, look, his Talia rocks weren't hitting as much as they should, and it's not like his walls were completely spectacular. So I think he's going to want, a bit of revenge on QQR, go for something a little bit more aggressive. I mean, I was thinking about that Neferi. I mean, I was wondering if it was going to get through the ban phase.
Yeah, right.
BROD decided that the Zed, Ezreal, Varus were enough, which I think almost secures this Neferi coming in for Karina.
Yeah, that's going to be easy lock-in right there. A classic pick for Karina we've seen from her many times so far in this split. The rest of the bans have been quick. The Xin Zhao, the Vi, and the Rel. And low-key, I thought that some of those replays, I think they put Zeta's Leona in a worse light than it deserved a little bit. They were very much the low lights, but I think he actually did a decent job for any time not in those replays. I think he was doing quite a good job on it. So they're trying to deny him the engages. He does have like a penchant towards that, but I thought there were some decent catches that he found. Frisky, I think you're clearly not quite as sold on the Zeta engages as I am, but we shall see what he goes for here. The answer so far has been the Porp Nocturne. Now, I imagine we're just going to see a QQR Orianna, at the very least maybe in that third rotation, but I mean, Intquick potentially, maybe they're happy to deny that Orianna away in the same way that the BROD and friends did to them in game 1.
I mean, it would make sense to do so, especially because this comp would be insanely strong with Nocturne Orianna. At the same time, I wonder if that's really what they want to go for. If I'm looking at this again, like looking at the possible picks that we could get, I still see, apart from the Zed, a Silas that also has a lot of value, of course, especially if you have ultimates that you can steal away, but it's not necessarily maybe the right position to already. Okay,
there it
no.
is.
That is something. That surely is. That is something. As we got Nocturne ulted here for a second. But we're back now.
Yeah, we're just preparing for the game. Don't worry, everybody. No problems there.
So double assassin mid jungle, Echo Neferi. No, very little CC to speak of. What are we?
For now. and then even less so with the Soraka. That'll be really interesting.
Okay, so I guess we're seeing that maybe the Kerberos Ornn just to do everybody CC for them, or what? This doesn't seem like a Kerberos pick, and to be honest, Int Quick don't seem to feel particularly tied to, you know, archaic concepts like utility, CC, or front to back. So maybe they're just gonna flex on them mega hard in game 2. We'll see what the answer for QQR is gonna be.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, I think for Broad and Friends, I think the fact that they didn't go Nocturne Oriana was good. I actually think Nocturne Oriana is a bit overrated. I think it's somewhat easy to counter, especially if you pick the 2 early. You can at least try to plan around that. Let me get there. I'll get there in a second. I was going to say they should have waited on the Oriana to see what Int Quick picked, and I actually didn't think that the Oriana now would have been so bad. I mean, they got the Corki, which is meant to be more stable in the lane to deal with Dragdar as well as possible. I mean, Corki's only has so many bad matchups, and I think is pretty good right now, especially in lane, and is relatively oppressive. That, though, is pretty much kind of the reverse of what we saw before, where now Broad and Friends are going to try to do the re-engage of what InQuick do, because you've got super aggressive people on the Neferi and on the Echo, and obviously that Annie is just going to slow things down as much as possible. If this goes to QQR, he's listening to my comms and is saying, all right, you're laughing at my flash, buddy, I'll show you really what for.
Yeah, I mean, like, talk to us a little bit about this Annie, because this has come back into the meta in a big way over the last few weeks.
Yeah, it definitely has, and it's been changed a little bit. So the initial damage you dish out when you hit that Tibbers button is insane. So it's not even the value of flash Tibbers anymore. It's really just Tibbers itself. Once it pops up, that initial first damage that you get is deadly. And I'm really excited to see how they are going to make it work, because I think Annie is also a champion you can punish quite easily, and I would look at Karina as well to, kind of support her mid lane here just a little bit more. But yeah, you do have this, initially you have a 6th member in your team for BROD now, and that can be very team fight deciding. And I think QQR definitely needs a bit of a redemption arc after last game, because that was a roughie.
Yeah, some of those cannon ults did not quite hit as we wanted them to. Those flashes into the walls were a little bit ugly. Spark, or Zeta I should say, locking in the Alistar right down there, so paired up with the Corki. We'll see what the top laner for Axe is going to be at the last pick. Frisky, we have a potential Xayah locking in right here. We'll see what Dragdar's actually going to lay down. It is in fact that, so Xayah Soraka, the Rakan was an option here, so why do you think we've gone for this pairing?
I don't know. My guess.
Classic
is,
in quick draft analysis. I don't know, man.
Like, was just like, I kind of want to play Xayah into Corki.
Yeah.
I mean, Xayah and Corki can do decently into Corki. I mean, they're gonna have a pretty aggressive lane with the Soraka, so I feel like it could actually be really hard for InQuick to do anything early on. I mean, Echo can maybe get a lead on the Annie, but like, I don't know. There's only so much that I feel like a Neferi can do in the very early levels, especially after she got nerfed. I mean, if they get something well in the top lane that can be oppressive to this Cho'Gath, I mean, the Nocturne can do decent into evading that top side. I mean, this is one of those classic drafts that you see here where it's just lots and lots and lots of question marks. You've got Assassins, and you've got like late game with the Xayah, then you've got that. So clearly all of our clear ideas of like how we want to play have kind of gone out the window, because I mean, the Gwen just, everything's weird. Everything's weird, and I don't like it. It's too weird.
We've gone back to the Kerberos Cho'Gath, which is obviously a great pick from him. It was banned in the first game. It's a very, very strong pick. But this is the second pop-off melee you've had now for a Broad and Friends pick in this draft. So why Gwen this time? Why are we not happy about the Gwen? Explain.
I mean, look, Gwen is freaking broken. This champion is immune to everything. No, I think I'm also just happy for a bunch of the people in chat who were writing, pick Gwen the first time around, and it didn't happen. Now here you go.
We do it for them. We do it for chat.
But I think it's a great pick for Akkers. I think he has the chance to, carry a little bit on that champion as well, because we have talked about the carry potential that Akkers can bring to the table too, and for him as well. Last game, kind of an oopsie, let's just forget about that one. But I think he can do a whole lot of work on the side lane with this pick. He's going to have a lot of impact with the needle work when we look towards team fights. It is not necessarily maybe the greatest synergy overall, I would say, with both of these drafts, but I feel like that's kind of also what we get with these two teams. We have a lot of comfort and a little bit of pocket pick potential here and there. And the fact that both the Nafiri and the Cho'Gath stayed open for them to pick on blue side, I think BROD need to have had a plan here. If they just did this out of pure cockiness, it's going to bite them in their butts.
This is not the game to become cocky against InQuick as 1-0 down in your upper side upper bracket match, right? You want to try and come out strong right here, and InQuick, I mean, if we go to that third game, they're going to have lost the Cho'Gath, lost the Nefiri, but also the Echo we've seen it for BZ before, but it's not his highest priority champion. We haven't even seen the Kitten Lulu yet. We've gone to the Soraka instead, so there's still gas in the tank for that last game. But Frisky, given the time now, after we've had a couple minutes, think about it. Have you worked out what InQuick does yet, or are we still cooking on that one?
They just do. They just do.
They be doing all day.
There's a famous American saying, "We do not plan, we do." And
Fair.
I think they're kind of fall into that box right here, because I think the more I think about it, I think the main idea is just have the Nefiri or the Echo get fed and then just have them be aggressive. Do what I said before about creating space on the map. And honestly, I think that Soraka could, if it doesn't go too badly in lane for the bot lane, I think that Soraka could be a really good pick for them, because it could be a scenario where you think like the Annie and the Corki and the Nocturne have people caught when InQuick are being a little bit too aggressive. But, you know, a Soraka Wish or just having her right behind the Echo or the Nefiri, and they're able to stay alive long enough. The more I think about it, the more I actually kind of want to give it to InQuick, which, again, goes against all of my coaching instincts. But just the weirder draft from BROD and Friends, and just like the synergy that they kind of weirdly need with a comp like this. I feel like if InQuick just plays with their confidence, with the momentum from the last match, it's going to be really hard for BROD.
Yeah, I'm looking at what InQuick has. So BROD and Friends has Annie Nocturne at its core, right? It's got Snap Engage, decently long range, Paranoia for confusion, but InQuick has Nefiri W, it's got Echo ult, it's got Soraka ult, it's got Xayah ult. Like, there's so many buttons that they can see the Paranoia, and they can just, like, slam the panic button and kind of get out of it, right? They can try and hit that disengage, which is what they did in Game 1. It's what they won Game 1 doing, was just dealing with what BROD and Friends' plan was, and just backing up, reassessing, and punishing, right? So it worked so great for them in Game 1, and so many of these champions just feel like punished champions in the same way, apart from maybe Cho'Gath. But that's just a solid Kerberos pick. So, Melee, do you think that BROD and Friends is going to actually be able to stick to InQuick this game? Because they couldn't in Game 1. They've kind of failed spectacularly to in Game 1.
I mean, I would want them to make it work, because I want to have a series. I want to see a third game. Yeah. And I agree. Look, InQuick, they have a lot of disengage, but I also feel like if they only use their ultimates to disengage, they will have a rough time as well, because what they have as disengage, the other side has in a more proactive type way. So the question for me, especially like if we look towards AD carry here, I feel like Xayah, she can never ult in a proactive way, because it's always from afar and it's always reactive. The ultimate never comes out as like, yo, we're going in. And I think, you know, maybe you can catch Dragdar a little easier here. I don't know. I feel like everything you said is totally true, but I'm very 50-50 on if that's always good or if it can be bad as well. So if they actually manage to, you know, get either QQR or Akkers into the game early on, I think the lights are going to be out, and not just because of Nocturne ult, but because it's going to be really hard, because at some point, who's going to kill Gwen? You know, same question though. Who's going to kill Cho'Gath? Like, it's going to be interesting. I wonder how long it goes and if time can actually, you know, be of the essence here.
Yeah, I mean, it is, because you have so much burst in mid jungle, and then I guess Cho'Gath is kind of a burst champion as well, right? He's not necessarily like a DPS pick. He's got CC and he has like burst potential. And you say Dragdar is probably under pressure quite a lot. He doesn't have a dash every few seconds like he does on Lucian once you're ranked up. He just has the one ultimate to try and get out of it and a big punish button. So maybe what they have is enough to actually just deal with InQuick, and maybe InQuick won't have enough to break through them. I don't know, Frisky. Like, when we're looking at InQuick right now, Karina's Nefiri is very, very strong and is very active on the map. Where can Karina play to have the most impact here? If you want to, is it just, as you said, are we just trying to get fed off mid and jungle? or is there kind of, do we need to be helping bot lane? Do we need to be dealing with top lane to keep Akkers out of this game? Like, what are we doing as an Afiri jungler, I guess, to make the best of this?
I think it's handle the Nocturne, but I think it's actually like a more top jungle centric. I think if you try to get the Cho'Gath a little bit, I think BZ's going to be fine on his own. I think if you get the Cho'Gath a little bit fed and he's able to build Heartsteel and get very tanky really early on, it's going to make it super hard for BROD and friends to do anything. And obviously it kind of negates that Gwen, pushes her into the side lane a little bit more, makes it easier for them to kind of sprint around the map and fight and find quick kills. I mean, I think, this Cho'Gath is going to be kind of one of the deciders of the team. I think if they spend too much time trying to kill him, it's going to make it really hard for BROD and friends to kill everybody else. I think at the same time, though, they got to, watch Akkers very closely, and I think they got to make sure he doesn't get like early dragons or early kills on that bot lane. If Dragdar stays fine and doesn't really, do much in the bot lane, which I think he's pretty good at doing, he doesn't really over-aggress too much and lead to easy kills. And, I think the, kind of top mid jungle invade onto Akkers is going to make it really hard. If they make it really hard for him to play and he gets 6 a lot quicker, then if they're able to snowball quickly, then there's not going to be a whole lot I think that BROD and friends can do.
Yeah.
But again, who knows? This is such a weird, so much weird stuff coming out. Just madness is probably going to happen.
We're trying to predict an Ink-Quick BROD and Friends game. Pretty tough to do. But for now, let's very quickly get our predictions to who thinks actually going to win this game. We didn't do it in the first game, but given it's Ink-Quick, given the BROD and Friends draft, given the strangeness on both sides melee, do you think this is a 2-0 for Ink-Quick? Do you think BROD and Friends can bring it back to 3 games?
I think BROD can bring it back and will take us to 3 games. I think they have 2 insane power picks with the Annie and the Gwen right now, and if they can make it work, I can see them taking us to game 3.
Frisky, thoughts? Do you think is the craziness for Ink-Quick? You have been dropping all of your coach instincts one by one so far today. Are we gonna? How many do you have left?
I don't know anymore. I probably have negative amounts at this point. But no, I think it's going to be Ink-Quick at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say it, and my history of getting predictions right the last few times has not been great, but I feel like Ink-Quick's going to overpower them and make it hard for them to play. I'm taking them.
Okay, let's see. Split desk on here. Let's pass it back over to our casters, Dubby and Rob, to take it into our second game. Let's see if Ink-Quick can take it out, or if BROD will push us to that third game.
Everybody, after a very exciting game 1, on to game 2 now, with another creative draft from both of these teams. Rob, what are you thinking? What are your first thoughts?
Yeah, creative is probably an understatement of the century, right? A lot of picks, some picks we expected, the Kareen and the Fury, and a few picks that we probably didn't. Overall, for example, I see the Nocturne locked in, and I despair. People despair in the chat. No, I can't. I really don't like the champion particularly much. Just in general, there's combos with it with an Orianna, but other than that, it often is one of these champs where either it's so good it kind of overpowers games, or it doesn't look so great and it's just sort of presses the R key, flies in, and then dies on the engage. And this is one of those games I think that could happen. If you look at the side of what Ink-Quick's drafted, who's Nocturne jumping on? It wants to be the Soraka, but who's going to be beside the Soraka? A big beefy Cho'Gath and a Xayah with ultimate. And you're dashing straight into a Soraka silence. So I think that it's a game where I really want BROD to take it to 3. I'd love to see 3 games out of it today, and I did have BROD 2-1. But I think that first game has really sort of upset the apple cart, so to speak, because we were saying in the green, I think some of the BROD players didn't really have their best game. I think they made a number of individual mistakes. They didn't look warm. Maybe this second game they can shut up a bit better, but I'm not holding out too much hope yet, because again, I just have a fear of like the Alistair in this game. How's that going to operate? The Gwen, you need to get this Gwen ahead, but the Kerberos's Cho'Gath is probably one of his best champs.
Yeah.
And this guy will build whatever he feels like on that champion. We've seen Trinity 4 of Deadmans. We've seen him obviously when the souls were broken going souls Shirelias. He'll build whatever and be stable on this pick. So man, I really want BROD to take it to 3. I'm just so worried that Ink-Quick, his Echo last time, BZ's seems to be a monster on that champ quietly as well.
Yeah. No, this game on Thursday, BZ, like, it started off slow on this Echo, but then he picked up 2 kills off a Dragon from BROD and Friends, and just absolutely got the game rolling from there. Echo with this Halo Blades mid lane build is getting very, very popular, and it's like in certain matchups here when you can get onto someone, trade those auto attacks, get the passive off. It's the trade pattern is so nice and low enough cooldown that you can really abuse it a lot. So we'll have to see if BROD and Friends learned from the situation on Thursday, right? They played into this Echo once, didn't work out for them too well. what have they learned, what are their takings, and how are they going to change into it coming into this game tonight?
And the other addition to that is how you're getting on top of the Soraka, as we are going to be getting into games. This is the biggest question that we always have whenever Soraka comes through is, she warps the game around her. Can you get on top of her? And this seems to be the case of, if you look at Brod's draft, it's a bit of a, we hope we do, and hope is not a strategy. And as we see just a line of scrimmage, if you are Brod here, you could see there's a lot of times where I've said they follow the call of Porp. They are Porp's minions, so to speak. He will call a play and everyone follows. And at least you've got champions that can do that. So maybe if Brod start winning a fight here or there, they can snowball it to a victory. But always worries, right, when you lost the first game in that kind of fashion, where it seemed to be you were kind of played off the rift.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of follow-up coming up from this broader roster right here on QQR's Annie, right? When Tibbers is summoned, inevitably, it's gonna bring a lot of damage, and you can Spark can dash forward, Pulp can fly in, like, they have the follow-up. It's just, who are they gonna be throwing it on, right? You're not gonna, Kinley is not the player to step up and get caught out on this Soraka. So they aren't going to be frontlining. Maybe this Cho'Gath on Kerberos is the idea, but depending on how he builds, right? If he goes for a squishier kind of top lane trading build, might be burstable. It's going to be interesting how it works out. And we're just going to have to see how QQR can get the flanks in. They struggled a bit last game, but that was due to very good vision and just setup from Quick. And now in a game 2, I mean, we're already getting some fun trading topside going on. I mean, I think we might see another topside First Blood. We missed it last game, but we could get it again this time.
And I will say this Gwen matchup is often much better later, as already level 1. They're getting some trades in bot lane. We are seeing BROD and friends not being too scared to step up to the Kinley Soraka and the Dragdar Xayah. So it's good to see, as Spark's taken very low though.
Spark already using the barrier. No level 2 available for Xayah to pull those feathers back. But it's gonna land very soon, as that's a bit of a awkward spot and friends to just put themselves in with these health bars.
Yeah, and they were saying on the desk about how, Corki and Xayah generally can be pretty strong, but this Corki, it started to be phosphorus spawn level 1, so it doesn't really get the same sort of damage as QQ, already taken to half HP. BC's feeling himself.
BZ trading so aggressively here, is waiting for their cooldowns. You knew they hesitated there, but huge respect to QQR having that flash available, just knowing they didn't need it because of how cooldown reliant this Echo pick is. But we're already seeing BZ forcing QQR off the lane, TPing back at level 2 is not a place you want to be as Annie.
And your purchase being those boots as well is definitely not what you want to see, right? You're not getting any more damage, no more threat really being put onto the Echo, who can just simply look for those trades again. Has gone for the Electrocute, not the Halo Blades, so we'll have a huge burst and in terms of his abilities. And yeah, just every echo into most mages is usually pretty solid. Traditionally, a counterpicking stuff like Syndra, we saw players historic like Jizuke on Vitality playing it, and then of EG fame. He loved that kind of pick, and we've seen, I think, Camillu playing it recently, at least in the LEC. So it's a champion that can look to punish some of these squishier, mage mid laners who are immobile. As Spark's just got to be a bit scared here because he is still so low and he doesn't really want to base, right? He doesn't want to lose any kind of waves, as Nocturne is pathing bot lane. There's no jungler in sight. Let's see if Satan can get on top of Kinley.
Did get around the vision there as they're dropping the damage. Bark flashing for flash, but the ignite burn will be enough. They're gonna try and chase down Kinley as Paul's forced to flash for that one. Dragdar should be able to run away from there, but that's an awkward trade, as we'll have to see where Dragdar can try and escape out of this one.
I mean, are they suspecting he's recalled that close to where he was last seen? Probably not. So it looks like the Xayah is going to end up getting out alive, and that just ends up being a 1-for-1. But it's also, more importantly, a 1-for-1 where the support gets the kill on one side and the Nocturne does on the other. So that's beneficial to BROD. But what isn't beneficial is that the flash wasn't burn on the Soraka. She knew she was dead, Kinley, didn't end up burning that. So the next engage is still going to be as difficult to pull off, as she's just walking out to cover mid. Porps here just managed to get some vision as Kinley's caught out.
Ooh, they stepped up her vision. QQR trying to flash forward for the stun. Won't be enough, but Kinley's ready to use the flash. The Nocturne has the move speed to chase this down. Will get one. BZ trading onto QQR, takes the kill themselves. Pope ramped up with this Conqueror, is trying to auto-attack as much as they can. Zeta running to get there as soon as possible, and the pullback Q from BZ gets him the kill.
And it ends up being in favor of 5 IQ. They pick up the first feat, and this Cho'Gath, he's being sort of aggressive on by Akers, but doesn't really matter because Karina's here to support.
Acker is trying to get onto Kerberos, but gets knocked up as well, and that's another kill going over to in quick. Zeta stepping forward, trying to keep the Xayah pick busy, but just dies for no reason. BROD and friends gotta ask themselves, what are they doing here?
I feel like they're kind of collapsing live as we watch right now, Dubby. That's not gone well. It was 3-2, yes, 3-2 in kills. Inkwick had just picked up the feat of warfare. And then suddenly, Akers plays too aggressive on top side. And let's not forget here, did we know where Karina was? Because we should have been sitting there going, well, we know that the Neferi's top because she's not playing aggressive into us on the bot side jungle as we're playing into BZ, and we end up falling there as well. So we know the dog is top lane. We know the Neferi is there. He's a tight leash, it appears, on this top lane matchup where Karina's come in again. And now, is Akers going to fall for a second time? Has Flash available, but is it going to be enough?
I mean, if the knock-up comes through from Kerberos, it will be enough. They're trying to trade the auto attacks to the damage. Has Flash if they opt in, but won't be able to get it. Goes for the Flash Q, but it doesn't connect. Snip auto attacks will net them at least one kill, as Karina does trade back, getting this wave on the tower. Meanwhile, BROD and friends pull up here, picking up this dragon. They will trade at least some global objectives back.
At least they're punishing, Karina spending that much time top lane, and despite Akers falling, does pick up a kill, so it's a 1-for-1 and then also a dragon on top. So at least BROD and friends are sort of dragging themselves back into this game with a net positive trade. But again, a little bit of disrespect of that revisit there from Akers. He knows how strong his matchup is for this Gwen, right? He knows how strong Gwen can be into tanks like the Cho'Gath. The Cho'Gath has already started to walk mid lane right now, looking to just cover. Doesn't really want to go and try and play too aggressive on top. Just eating a little chicken away, and then walking back to top, it would appear, Kerberos. But again, it's not going to be the case that this Gwen is going to run away with the game. We are really hoping for a good Gwen game, right? It's a champion where she can 1v9, she can get on top of the Soraka without being interrupted, she can shred through the Cho'Gath, and at the moment it's not looking quite that way, where Karina is being able to visit here multiple times. Porp is covering his bot lane because his bot lane's not had the best time of it, even though they are actually in fact in CS here. BROD and friends is bot lane, which, given how level 1 went, we weren't expecting it, but still. Yeah. We'll have to see if BROD can really use any of these advantages they've got off of the CS differences in lane, because in terms of kills, 5IQ are in the lead.
I mean, Akers did still get a kill in that 1v2, so they're not completely off this top lane yet, and we'll have to see if that's the kind of pressure they can keep up, because they have dragged this Neferi top lane twice. Is this something? But then we need to see BROD and friends getting more on this bot side. They got the dragon once. Can they get more? Can they get some kills onto the bot lane? Can we get Spark a kill? Shut down this Xayah as well. There's a lot of opportunities if we see Inkwick sending too much on this top side. Kerberos here happily sitting on those 3 ruby crystals, stacking up a lot of health, as now we're seeing again a dog Karina champion right here moving up. They aren't going to be able to force too much. Porp is here available, looking to trade back, dashing onto this Cho'Gath, and here comes the invulnerability used, as Karina will not be able to fall there as they flash out of that. A bit of split focus coming out from BROD and friends will not net them a kill, but in return they will force them away from the grubs that have spawned.
I think that's a bit of suspect target selection there, W, because Karina was far closer to Akers, the only one Akers could really hit. Porp chooses to dash onto the Cho'Gath. Maybe you can early burn the Neferi W, right? Maybe you can get rid of that with if you press the R key as the Nocturne. My brain just blanked there for a sec. And then, or if you can get onto it and get the fear off, maybe it's managing to go off even if she goes invulnerable. Instead, jumping onto the Cho'Gath, split focus, as you said, it's not going to end up resulting in anything other than sort of making Karina fall back with her tail between her legs, as the grubs are now picked up here by BROD and friends, which is what we want to really see, right? Want a bit of fight back. Last game they got 2 grubs and nothing else, and here they're at least getting some objectives as BZ's going aggressive in the mid lane. Look at the damage trade here in mids. It's already half HP onto QQR. And that just means that another cycle with Electrocute, and QQR's under trouble of being on lethal for anything, whether it's Karina or it's BZ. As Karina's top again. Oh my god. They hate Akers. They hate him.
They might look for a dive here as the wave is pushed in. Akers, though, doing a good job of clearing the wave and dodging out whatever CC. There's only 3 minions there, so this is a bit of an awkward dive. Will use the invulnerability, plays this very, very nicely, dashing around. However, Karina will be able to convert that kill, and Porp isn't able to get there in time, and that's a very, very good dive and another kill going up really quick.
And just want to say they're absolutely disgusted that Neferi W still dodges turret shots and Riot should completely remove it. But just as a quick aside, there's a TP coming in bot lane here, W, even on this dive from BROD.
They're looking for something already. Dragdar using the ultimate to peel them away from the dive. They got to be careful though, as there is an echo behind them. Flash being used, as now BROD and Friends is in the wrong jungle. TP coming in from QQR, a knockback from Zeta, trying to get damage, but it is enough to get down the kill, as now BROD and Friends need to see what else they can convert in this play. QQR has stun available as they trace down this Karina pick. Neferi gets taken down, 2 kills over to BROD, but a triple kill for BZ.
And you were saying in the last time we saw these guys play before today, it was BZ's Echo that led the line, led the win, got a couple kills in the early game there, and he's got a 3 here now. What a performance. I guess this could be coming out on a champion that we didn't really suspect for him in the beginning of the split as absolutely monstrous. And I just think that he's just been someone that maybe has gone under the radar a little bit this split on a team of so many people that we recognize, right, as having these strong picks, as these strong champions. BZ, if you look at his stats, he's by far the highest damage mid laner in the entire tournament. He's by far the highest damage for the amount of gold he receives of any standard player that's been starting. And that's an incredible statistic to be coming out of someone that hasn't been standing out so much compared to Karina, who's had a fantastic split. Kerberos has had a few up games and a few down games that we always recognize his talent. What an absolute performance coming out from what many thought was the Zed Silas 2 trick on every other champion but.
Exactly that. I mean,
QQR
coming in. QQR in an awkward spot. However, Pope will fly in, trying to save their mid laner. Zeta there as well, as this is a nice return collapse from BROD and Friends, taking down Karina, as they will look for more. Kerberos, only one left, gets knocked by Alistair, flashes over, and chomps down on QQR, getting a kill there, as they're going to try and donate this kill over to Spark. It's going to take their time, but they will convert it. But here comes the echo damage, instantly blowing up Pope, and looking for more. Spark able to kite on this one nicely, as Kitley can't trade back, but that Nocturne just disappeared, and they might look for more.
The BROD today is not the BROD I thought would show up, Dubby. I thought they'd come into this really motivated. We've seen when the 4 of these players, or rather 3 of them, were on Lions Creed. We've seen them at Insomnias. We've seen them at many tournaments where they just show up in the clutch in the playoffs. And at the moment, it's not coming through, is it? Right there, they think they get the pick, they get the kill onto Neferi, and yet they still give a kill over. QQR playing too far up, letting Kerberos really have an option to actually get anything off of that play.
Yeah.
And BROD, they are collapsing. They are in the leads, at least in bot lane, 20 CS lead for this Corki. But we aren't really seeing any kind of major advantages. And if you look at the side of 5IQ, this Echo is a huge advantage. Buffed items on this patch, 10 stacks on the Dark Seal is going to be very, very scary for even the Gwen, who the Echo could potentially look to one-shot later.
Yeah. I mean, this Echo, if they opt in to even upgrade this Dark Seal to the Medjais, if they're feeling it, will bring out so much damage. And with the Mercury boots there as well, giving that extra bit of tenacity just in case they do ever get CC'd from this comp from BROD and Friends is just so clutch factor here. Huge shutdown bounty on them though. If they do step up and they do get CC'd for too long, can get shut down, as again we're seeing a bit of a skirmishing here. BZ hiding off in the distance and will dash onto Pope. One auto attack, nearly dropping him down to half health. Akker's TPing down for this dragon, and it looks like Inquick will give this over, but they will convert some gold on the top side instead.
So it does give BROD a win condition, right? At least stacking these dragons gets them towards what would be Soul Point. 2 dragons are now on the board for them. I just want to bring up that if we look at the side of, we were saying about, you know, how these drafts operate. If you're 5IQ, you are going to be able to have 2 assassins jump in, one go for an Annie and one go for a Corki, both of whom are very, very squishy and could easily fall to the burst of either of the 2 champions, of the Neferi and the Echo. And if you're BROD and Friends, you need to be in enough of a lead, enough of a position where you can basically flood forward and not worried about that, as Kerberos, he's being jumped on here in top lane.
Trigger pulled onto Kerberos. Soraka already using that ultimate to give some extra health, but it won't quite be enough as Kerberos just trades back with 2 nice Heartsteel stacks. Meanwhile, bot side, Kitley forced to flash over the wall. Dragdar trading back will force them to run away, but look at QQR, has the blast cone available. Soraka in an awkward spot here. There needs to be a trigger force from BROD. They haven't been able to get in yet. The feather pullback from Dragdar stunning QQR, meaning they can't get more. Meanwhile, Pope on the top side caught in their jungle, getting chased down by BZ and Karina. Another kill going over to this Echo, as Acker is trying to recall away, will get out in time. And meanwhile, bot line, they have been zoned away from the tower.
That was almost a complete disaster for BROD, where QQR was rooted under the turret from some really great feather placement from Dragdar. And then on the top side, Porp ends up being collapsed upon in his own jungle by Karina, by BZ, and falls for it. And Akers, if he had fallen there, would be disastrous. Zeta, see, now we see the problem, right? The silence
Oh, the feather pull back! It's huge! Spark gets caught out right there, as forced to flash away as Dragdar is chasing them down. Meanwhile, Kittenly trading onto Zeta. Zeta looking to run to their tower, will knock Dragdar away, uses the unstoppable will to buy themselves some kind of resistances, as Dragdar is going to chase them on the tower. Flash being pulled, and here comes QQR. This time, Flash available. Flash Tibbers onto one, gets the kill, looking to hunt down this Soraka, who has nothing left in the tank besides some Qs. Will get the move speed for that. Spark trying to chase it down, as Kittenly escapes out of that one.
I do think there, if you are QQR, you may be a little bit too fast on the play with the flash. I think you maybe have to wait and see if you can get on top of, just walk at them, right? Like walk at them and then use the flash to follow, because I think you were going to be able to pick one of them up anyway. They do get the kill, but now with flashes down on everyone other than Akers on the side of BROD and Friends, the question now arises, how are we getting on top of Soraka? How are we going to do that? And I think it's going to be very, very difficult for the next Dragon fight, right, in 2.5 minutes. That, as we also see there, the Herald goes over to the side of Inquick, and they're now going to be able to choose, very likely mid lane, to just run it down and open up the map. And if you've got two assassins, an open map is exactly what you want. If you find a Corki or an Annie in a dark alley, you're going to one-shot them.
Then again, QQR just, I think they really wanted to get a kill, and that flash might have been a bit overzealous, but it did get them what they needed, and it got a shutdown as well. So it's just something to get the ball rolling, give them some kind of tempo. We're looking at these items coming across. There's a nice force onto Kittenly. No flash available for the Soraka. Flying downtown. Pulp using their own ultimate to guarantee that kill, as we're getting QQR on the side as well. 4 members strong. They do pick up this Soraka, but they need to convert something out of it. Looking at these tower, wait, the whole minion wave crash into mid. Kerberos looking to get this bot lane tower. BROD, they get the kill, but they need to get more.
So the answer of how you get on Soraka is hope that Kittenly, which we have seen a number of times make a few mispositional mistakes, as QQR's caught out in a dark alley, as I was saying.
Tibbers drop to trade up some damage. Bakrina will be able to pick up that kill, flashing away. Spark looking for something, but Kerberos follows with the flash. Zeta getting the knock-up, will have some peel. Kerberos, though, does get the knock-up and the chomp, giving another net positive stack to this Cho'Gath, sitting on 7 of those ultimate stacks, looking very, very tanky.
So it ends up being 2 members forwards. Akers also, by the way, fell in the top side to BZ, who's now finished the Lich Bane. Buffed item on this patch. Yes, lost some stats, but in terms of the cost and the build path, overall was a buff. And it's just crazy to me that Inquick, who, again, a lot of us had maybe struggling in the best of 5s or 3s, isn't really struggling as Porp. He's just trying to clear mid-wave. This turret's now going to fall. There's absolutely no way it doesn't. What an absolute crazy passage of play, dummy. Sort of a quick recap. Kittenly gets caught out in a position we've seen her get caught out a couple times in some of the Inquick games when they've been on blue side. And it seems like, okay, they've managed to do it. They've picked off the Soraka, what they can get from it. And the answer is they can give kills over to the side of Inquick. They can get caught out in bot side jungle, Karina going over there, being able to pick up the kill onto QQR. And they also give the kill over onto Kerberos. And now Kerberos is going to fight bot lane. I mean, it's just a case of BROD and Friends, they look for something, they get it, and then Inquick go, well, now you've used everything. We're just now going to run at you and pick whatever up we want. As the Dragon now, the one win condition we could have pointed to and say maybe BROD and Friends can force the soul isn't here. There's nothing on the other side of the map they can really look for. The only thing is maybe look for mid turret. That's full HP. Look for top turret. BZ's defending that. He's an absolute monster in his own right. So right now, BROD and Friends are getting nothing, and 5IQ are getting everything.
Similar to last game with these grubs, we did see BROD and Friends get them, but they're only valuable if you can hit towers, and that's one thing that BROD have looked like they're struggling this game. BZ, though, engaging onto Annie. Here comes the force from BROD, trying to pick up this flashless Echo, will get feared, and here comes the stun from QQR. It's enough damage for a shutdown. Spark under the tower will get killed, as Karina picks up a double kill onto this BROD and Friends roster. Zeta stuck behind the tower, triple kill for the Neferi. The feather pullback will get 1, and it's a 1-for-4 trade. 5 IQ.
And it's not even finished yet as Akers. He's so low in the bot lane. We'll probably get to see after we count the replay. It looks here like BROD are trying to pull the trigger. They know they need to do something on the side of the map, having given over that dragon. But here you see 5IQ. They're in. Look at the minimap. They're absolutely coming in to support their guy in the mid lane. And Karina, this is why this was banned away by BROD in game 1. Her Neferi is absolutely disgusting. And the champion itself, 2 dashes in, gets the second one onto QQR. Triple kill in the end for the Neferi. Karina, who honestly has been the best jungler this split out of most of the teams, especially the ones that are left.
Yeah,
she's showing up again on another carry jungler. We've seen her in some of those other tournaments, in Equal Esports Cup and such on some of the women binary teams she played on. She's had to facilitate. She's had to play Sejuanis and Jarvans and these kind of junglers, and she's known as a carry jungler. And boy, does she carry this team. As BZ, he's caught out.
He's caught out, does teleport back, but has all the cooldowns they need to escape out of this one. As BROD and friends might have just overchased this. Zeta dropping very low. Karina using the unstoppable, trying to get at the first dagger, won't connect. Zeta dashing back in as here comes the Nocturne ultimate, trying to use the paranoia to get some kind of vision break, and he is able to drop Tibbers, getting kills over left and right, as that is the kills the BROD and friends need. Chasing down BZ, who dashes back onto Tibbers. Dragdar has now shown up, using the attack speed to trade back. Barrier used as the burst isn't enough. Dragdar flashing away, Pope on the hunt as Dragdar's just desperately trying to play for these cooldowns. The feather pullback is huge, keeping them alive. And here comes Kerberos with an auto attack to finish off the fight.
It looked like it was going to go the way it looked like the way it was going to go of Inkquick, and then BROD and friends managed to come up with something there pretty spectacular. And now, as we go potentially into a replay for that one, it ends up being that 5IQ end up coming out on top. As right here, 5IQ playing aggressive. They are looking for Karina's looking for the inroads, and BZ gets caught out, has to burn that ultimate. Looks like right now Kittenly might be caught as well. Does end up walking away. 5IQ want this fight. They choose to go in. And then suddenly the sort of snap cooling you expect from BROD and friends comes through. Zeta sacrificing their life to be able to start that fight. QQR falls as well, and it's the power pals, the power trio of QQR, Spark, and Porp who have come together here to make this possible. But then you've already got the members in support of 5IQ. You've got Dragdar, you've got Kerberos coming in. UK, staples, storied, some of the best UK players that have ever been produced in League of Legends. They come through. And they end up cleaning up the fight. And Akers is just sat in the bot side. I don't know if he didn't have TP up, so he can't join. And he just manages to take something as he's basically sacrificed himself. We come out the replay, we see Akers is dead again. But that was because he was forcing onto the bot turret to get whatever gold. At this point, anything is good for BROD and friends.
Here's another force from BROD and friends onto Dragdar. Will get a very good kill right there. And now this is a great situation for them to try and convert something. They're continuing the chase onto the Soraka. Hope just waiting for their cooldowns. Fear will connect, but that will bring a flash away as Atakan is on the map. And that would be a lovely objective for BROD and friends to get if they can.
And at the moment, they need something, right? Akers is coming to support. They've now... Dragdar is down. Kittenly without flash, this is your best chances. Yes, you don't have the paranoia available, but at least you may be able to try and force a fight or something onto this Atakan. As we see Porp, QQR, Zeta, Spark, Akers, they're all here. They're all going, listen, this is the fight we have to take. Karina on the other side, 3 items. Already got that Edge of Night, which is terrifying. You're not going to get that instant stun from the Annie to deny that Neferi the entrance into the fight. Echo's in support as well. They're all the members are here. Karina, is she caught out?
They're looking for Karina, flashing for flash
so
on that
dead.
side. Meanwhile, Akers buying some time, is keeping them alive for surprisingly long. Kerberos will use their own ultimate to get that. And Karina getting out alive does mean that BROD and friends not only lose their top laner, but will lose this ad account as well.
And it's just the slipperiness of the Neferi, right? Has that the E, which flurry of blades or whatever it's got. I can't remember its exact name, but it's on like a 3-second cooldown once you max it. It's very, very low cooldown, lots and lots of mobility. The W making you invulnerable makes it so hard for them to actually get any sort of damage onto it meaningfully. And then you have the Soraka as well, coming into support. It just means that it's a pick that that's so hard to execute on unless you have enough CC to play through all that sort of mobility, and they didn't really have it. On the other side, Akers, he was looking to push the wave. It was really good from 5IQ to recognize that they needed to collapse onto him, as now the Atakan falls down. Same mistake to last game, where it's very, very hard for BROD to play an even number of fights. They're going to have to look for something to start off, because Akers isn't here. BZ's just going to come straight back with TP. Paranoia's gone. They're going to go here, BROD.
Engaging onto Dragdar, does dodge the feathers back, but QQR is already dead. Here comes BZ dashing onto Akers, trying to trade onto there, as Pope isn't even able to get the 80 carry there. Acker tech, Akers doing what they can, but it isn't enough, as Zeta, the last member standing from BROD, running desperately into their jungle. It won't be enough, as this is inevitably gonna be the ace for the side of IntQuick as they're looking to push through this bot lane.
And BROD and friends, they clearly came in today with a couple of draft strategies, a couple of interesting plans. We saw that Kedda mid in the first game, we see the Annie mid in the second, and it's just not been enough. And what absolute fantastic performances from pretty much every member of IntQuick today, Dubby. Name a member who's disappointed. There really isn't one. They're all on their A game, and they're looking to enter. Yes, there are some respawns. Maybe they don't get it.
QQR is here. They flash forward, will be able to take down BZ. They're gonna look for more. Karina on this mid lane turret can opt in to help their team, but instead won't go for that. Spark dashing forward, doesn't quite have the damage. Paranoia used to chase down this big Cho'Gath. Spark and Paul hitting it down will eventually kill Kerberos, but that's a mid lane inhibitor falling in return. Akers is there, uses the needlework to chase them down, the slow being enough. Karina having that unstoppable will use that as ultra wave for a second, but the silence from Kitley buying so much time, flashing forward as well as Karina will try to trade back, but it won't be enough, as these are some nice kills from BROD and friends. They need to use these timers, however, to pick up an objective.
Watch Dragdar. Dragdar's going for the base.
Dragdar?
Dragdar's recognized he could just end the game here if there's no one here to cover. Zeta's basing, but that's not going to be enough.
There's a QQR spawning in 8 seconds. However, Dragdar, this is a very high tempo attack speed. Zeta, only one there, will hopefully be able to keep them away from this Nexus, as QQR has also since respawned. I like the attempt. What? Not enough. Meanwhile, Kitley's killed Pop on the Baron. She's killed two people. BROD and friends dead. Baron is picked up, but at what cost? As look at Dragdar here, trading heavily onto Zeta. Here comes the TP in from Kerberos onto the minion wave. This Cho'Gath is huge. Dragdar chunks down this Alistar as Kerberos does lose half their health. But this is BROD and friends desperately trying to defend the base with the Baron. BZ has walked up here, has a lot of damage. Spark forced to dash away, and they may have Baron, but it's not enough to win you the game. As IntQuick look to clean up Spark and eventually take down the Nexus, getting a dominant 2-0 performance tonight in this first playoff series.
And what an ending. It looked like IntQuick got to push to end. The respawns come through, and in the end, BROD maybe through their only chance to come back into it. Kitley on the Baron picks up 2 kills. Porps, they managed to secure the Baron, but on the other side, we see Dragdar forcing people to come back as I think the graphics, sadly it's not a 2-1, it is a 2-0 today. That's a bit of an unfortunate sort of result for BROD, who I was kind of high on them. I thought on a lot of their games they looked really solid. I thought they looked really solid in the regular season, even into IntQuick, and there was a number of games where they managed to come back. Wasn't to be today, and I think honestly IntQuick played them off the map twice. It looks really, really solid from IntQuick, and this game, it's not the bot lane that we saw in the first game that caused all of the issues for BROD and friends, right? In that first game, it was like Dragdar Kitley, the Lucian army is a problem. In this game, it's the Echo, it's the Neferi causing the issues. So we already knew there were threats in every role coming out from IntQuick, but if there's ever a series to show what IntQuick is about, it's this one. 2 games, many lanes, many lanes where the people can carry.
Definitely. I mean, coming off BROD and friends from the Thursday game, I think our expectations came from that, where they got into the early game, had that kind of lead, and weren't able to close it. First game tonight didn't happen. This time we got signs, we got hints towards it, but on repeat, BZ getting all these kills on this Echo was just more than enough to just completely take over the game. And I don't know if BROD and friends maybe came in too confident or something. It's hard to really put a read on how they really struggled both these games. And in return, IntQuick, very confident, easy 2-0 for them.
They got lost in the IntQuick source a little bit. They didn't really decipher down or distill down how they wanted to play into IntQuick's drafting, and maybe they were a bit surprised that the Lulu wasn't taken. For example, we didn't even see it today from Kitley. So there's a few maybe concerns for BROD the rest of playoffs, when it seems to be that a series we were really hyping up ends up not being that way. But IntQuick, incredible today, really looking incredibly scary.
No, this game for them this series is a great showing for a lot of teams. We weren't sure about how is this team going to form into Fearless Draft when they can't do this? They didn't even care it was Fearless. It didn't even seem like a problem. They just picked different champions in the first game, won, different champions in that game, won again. Like, it didn't even seem like it mattered to them at all. And you know what? If there's any way to start off a confident set-up game to this playoff series for this Four Nations, it was this one right here. In quick, taking a 2-0 on the Bandits, just immediately putting these guys down to the lower bracket and getting that little sweet spot in the next game coming up next week.
Well, we'll have to see who joins them. I think we're going to go to a break soon, right? I assume so. Yeah, production are telling us we're going to go to a short break, but I assume the desk is going to be back.
Yes.
In a minute. Hopefully.
Exactly. That is it
Fingers
from
crossed.
us tonight, because there's only a best of 3. So thank you, everyone. Rob, it's been great having you with me tonight. And we'll throw it into a break right here before the desk will break it down for us. See you guys then.
welcome back everybody to the analyst desk. Just like that, the series is over. Int Quick with a 2-0 win, another fabulous victory over BROD and Friends, who crashed down to the losers bracket. And we do have an interview from the victorious side, from the one half of the featured matchup himself. We have Dragdar here from Int Quick. Welcome, my friend. I see you've got the party lights on already. We're already celebrating.
Gotta celebrate properly for a win like that, man. How's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. Now, you seem to have put a lot more effort into the celebration than you guys do for the games, for the practice. You know, we heard from Atreides on the Saturday recap show that you guys don't really have a practice regimen of 5IQ. So what would you say it is that is actually giving you guys the edge to keep finding wins without this system in place? Because 0 losses is not a small achievement.
Yeah, well, I mean, to give some details, no disrespect to the other teams, but like we literally don't scrim. And if you look at our Discord server, it's just Atreides. He's just DMing us over and over again. By the way, you need to be here for this game, and none of us have an idea what's going on. But what I will say is, people don't like to hear this, but it is true. Like, obviously, we're a bunch of challenger players, and so just naturally, because of our understanding of the game being at a quite high level, like when we play, like everything kind of syncs up. That being said, our drafts are a bit wacky, and we don't really know what we're doing.
Really?
But yeah, when we're in game, it works. So
yeah. I mean, it seems like 5IQ, especially today, you're always ready for what BROD was going to do, right? It seemed like there was a very strong like reaction and punish game on display. You're drafting things like Zaya and Neferi and Echo, things where you can wait for them to make a play and just respond appropriately, right, and take them down. Like, is this is this something that you're actually actively planning to be like, we're going to draft disengage in this game against what they're doing, or is it just, oh look, we have 5 disengage champions, I guess we'll just play it out however it makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, there's not really any planning going on. But like, unironically, Atreides, listen, I just have to shout this guy out some more. Like, he basically does everything for us because we're just a bunch of lunatics, and he's like the father, like stopping us from burning everything down. And so, like, he does unironically the draft prep as well. Like, he goes on, gives us the OPGGs and like tells us what they're likely to pick and stuff, and handles the banning. And then yeah, when we're in draft, then it's like, yeah, we'll just see what they pick and like kind of respond in a way. Like, I don't really play Zaya at all. I haven't played her in 2 years, but like they had Nocturne. Some other dive, so it was going to be a good pick there. And obviously, you know, Neferi, Kurana, she's 1v9 on that, so yeah, we kind of just go with the fly and respond as appropriately, you know.
Big shout outs to Atreides, the shining star of Scottish esports, absolute GOAT manager for sure. Big ups. Frisky, do you have a question you'd like to ask Dragdar?
Well, obviously your team, you know, as Trajan just mentioned, you play so much kind of weird picks. You know, you kind of play like a much more aggressive style. I mean, obviously it's doing very well. And since you're a bunch of challenger players, and it seems like that this could go to the very end of you guys winning UKEL, how far are you guys looking to take your team? Could you go all the way to the top? Are you looking to kind of redefine the world meta with the style that is just no scrims and all just insane champions? Are you trying to, you know, to recreate what European League of Legends really means? How far do you guys kind of want to go with your team?
Well, we did come in with the expectation of just winning everything, so that is definitely a plan. I will say it might sound a bit conceited, but we're not putting in the preparation to match our goal, but I think we're kind of on the path there. I do think just as 5 players individually, we got a lot of talent. So, and as soon as, by the way, we heard the finals are going to be in Stoke, we're going to make it a movie in there. So we do really want to get there. So it's going to be hella fun. Okay. I think we can go to the top.
Ooh, let's go. We'll see the folks at Stoke, absolutely. We'll see the first scrim ever of 5IQ versus Less Returners, I guess. In the NLC. That's what we'll wait for that one. Melee, how about you? Do you have something for Dragdar?
Yeah, actually I do. So there is a Prime League team, because I do cast mostly Prime League, right? So there's a Prime League team. Their name is CGN, formerly known as Dung Dynasty, and they are basically doing a similar thing to what you guys are doing. No scrims, just fun, insane solo queue players. And we're kind of wondering if they will start to struggle now that we're going into playoffs with the Fearless, you know, part of the draft, and especially looking towards best of 5 series, because you guys had a best of 3 today, and you know, not to take away from the accomplishment, but I feel like you didn't have to go as deep into your champion pool as possible when we look towards the future. So how do you feel about, you know, going into a best of 5 with the Fearless draft, and do you feel like that could be a problem champion pool wise, or are you just going to wing it like you're always doing it?
Well, There are some of us that have flexibility in our pools. We are limited on some roles. Obviously, I won't reveal those secrets because there are people listening. But let me just put it this way: either we win in 3 games or we lose. So we're gonna win in 3 games. Is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
We're gonna make that happen.
Yeah. I mean, it took 2 games to get you on a champ you've not played for 2 years. So I guess maybe 3 games becomes, it gets real spicy at that point, perhaps. Thank you very much, Dragnar. Yeah, I don't know how we'll see. Maybe Stoke's gonna see the first 5-game series for you guys. But thank you very much, Dragnar, for joining us on this interview. Congratulations again, and we will see you again later in the upper bracket.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, reconfirming the stories from Atreides. He wasn't just being modest. They literally are just winging it, and you can feel that. You can feel it in their gameplay. You can absolutely feel it in the draft. And we'll see if anyone can actually find the solution there, because it seems like today the choice by BROD was to let Nefiri through. I don't love that as a choice. No, not a good choice. So everyone, we're going to watch that. We're going to internalize that. And we're not going to give Karina Nefiri, perhaps, if we're hoping to win a game. So, right, let's look at this game in a little bit more detail. Let's get the post-game stats up. And Frisky, for this win here, we can see like some pretty hefty numbers coming out of BZ in the mid lane, of Karina in that jungle. You know, we were wondering if it was going to be, how much it was going to be about mid jungle versus top jungle. And they ended up just kind of being a little bit about everything. But is there any kind of individual from there for Mint Quick that you'd like to highlight, I guess, that you think had a particularly good game here?
I mean, what's funny is that I noticed the damage on Spark was way higher than anybody else's on.
He's trying so
Quick,
hard, man. He's trying so
team
hard.
Damage versus individual damage shows how much it makes sense. But if you saw the damage for Quick, the person who had the highest damage was Kerberos. I mean, this Cho'Gath, he just played so aggro the entire time. Just had some troubles, maybe a little bit, just for some jungle ganks in the top lane to deal with Akkers, but they neutralized the Gwen still pretty well, and they got it so that he was just in every lane possible. He was just terrorizing people as much as possible, hitting all of his ruptures, eating people alive, doing everyone he tried to kill him, do as much damage as possible. He took up so much pressure on the map that BROD always had to find a way to deal with the Cho'Gath. They never could the entire time, and that pretty much gave them plenty of windows for the rest of the map to win the game.
Yeah, another massive power pick that we need to be considering not allowing, to be honest, and hopefully if those best of 5s come around, Fearless will be able to save somebody from getting eaten by that Cho'Gath every single time. But Melee, our player of the game, as poggers as Kerberos was, we have actually gone back to your roots here. We've gone right back to the first player that you highlighted for us. We've gone for Karina on the Nefiri, and really, Melee, who else could it have been? When you pick Nefiri for this person, like, what else is going to happen?
I mean, honestly, it's kind of a given if we just look at the stats. I know Frisky was kind of getting nervous because sometimes she played with her food just a tiny little bit, where he was like, just go for it, get the kill. She was playing with her food, she knew she was going to get the kills eventually. No, but really just insane impact all game through. Played a lot around top lane, which in my opinion also adds up to why Kerberos had such a great game, because he was being helped out quite a bit. As we can see here, Kerberos by himself obviously didn't do so much, as we look at the Echo being completely ganked here. And they had to invest a lot here on the side of BROD, but now as soon as Karina comes into the mix, as soon as the bot lane moves up, she can clean it up for a double kill. She's going to get QQR for the easy triple kill for her. And it just highlights how proactive she can play on these carry champions, He promised me chicken wings for ganks. You know what? You get them chicken wings, girl, because you deserve them. I second that. Give my girl some chicken wings for this. But overall, I gotta say, I have a bunch of questions about leaving open these power picks in a game 2 of Fearless, because usually what Fearless does for you is you get some more ban options for free, and I feel like leaving this open just was a bit too cocky, and I think they could have easily gone to a game 3 not giving up so many of their power picks here. So I don't know, I'm still having a little bit of a question mark there.
Yeah, we'll have to see if the other teams will. I imagine we'll see different approaches to the draft as we evolve through this one, because someone's going to have to try and find a solution to 5IQ in this format, and we'll see what they want to, how they want to approach that. We do have a second replay here, and Frisky, you can talk to us a little bit about this, because I think this one exemplifies that BROD are never completely out of it, right? They're always contesting, but they're never quite winning, you know?
No, they really never try to be out of it. I mean, obviously, we saw how much damage Spark was able to do this entire game, and he did a really good job of it. QQR had some really good Annie plays, as I think, if I'm thinking of the right play, we'll see some here.
Yeah.
There's a moment Karina maybe is a little bit too aggressive. They try to use the Nocturne ultimate to counter with it, and then a great stun from QQR on 2 people, try to make the fight go in their way, be a lot more aggressive. Just unfortunately, our boy Dragdar, the man in the sunglasses, just did not care. Absolute madness here to make it seem like that BROD was going to have a fight, but the barrier and the feathers just in time, and then good old Kerberos doing a little dance, getting the finish.
Yeah, coming in to put a stamp on that one for sure, but it's such a back and forth play, and again, Spark doing so much work in that one. Yeah, QQR on the Annie actually looked pretty darn good. I was liking that from him. And to be honest, given how well QQR was able to perform into BZ in the first game, into the Taliyah matchup, and then with the Annie in the second one, I think maybe we can leave the Zed up. Like, I think the Zed has not looked like it's winning the games in the games that we've seen it, right? We have seen it, and it's been solid, right? It's been good, but it's not been infallible. And the picks like the Neferi just seem like they're so much more consistently valuable. The Cho'Gath for Kerberos, like, I don't know. And again, I'm not trying to hate on BZZ, because he would completely dice me up if I had like 5 teammates around me. He would completely cook me on this pick. But just the champion itself, right, feels like so much harder to make use of in comp when your team is not necessarily playing around it. You're playing as 5 individuals trying to do your best, and if you can't enable the Zed, I don't know if that makes it work. Frisky, I don't know. Do you agree? Like, do you feel like the Zed is lettable up here? Or I guess if you had to swap a ban out, if we're trying to maybe fix it or take a different approach, like, how would you ban against this team?
Oh, I don't know. How would you ban against this team? Best question of the century, because I don't think there is an answer to that.
Scholars everywhere.
I've kind of thought of what an answer to in Quick is, and maybe they will hear it, maybe some other teams will hear it. We'll see how much they prepare against it. But, yeah. I mean, certainly I think the Neferi is a more worrisome ban than the Zed. We've seen what that can do. Obviously, a jungler can obviously have more pressure, and then there's only so much pressure that Zed can do because he's, doesn't have the resets that Neferi does and is more single target focused. But I think one of the ways to beat in Quick is just to fight fire with fire. I think it's just to try to match their insanity. Pick some stuff that's really aggressive for you. Try to get ahead in the early game. Play it like they are. Play it like solo Q. See if you can get a better matchup on them. If they're going to play wacky and unprepared, then you have to play wacky and unprepared and not care. And then you kind of just have to hope to get lucky in that scenario. It's such a weird way of saying this. And yes, I know pretty much everything about this broadcast has made me go from sophisticated official Pep Guardiola style tactics to now just throw everything out
just
there.
Just go chaos, man. Whatever. Who cares? Just leave it by the wayside. Right. Melee, I guess same question. Like, if you're so the answer for Frisky is throw everything out the window, go chaos, just go nuts, right? If you're trying to start back with the base question, if you're trying to ban against 5IQ, what are you prioritizing? What's your first 3 rotation? What is your strategy there?
I mean, look, I think the problem is that in the beginning, just banning out these pocket picks was enough. And even then it didn't work, right? But it was on paper. On paper it was enough. And we have a similar issue in Prime League where we have a team that is based on some of the greatest EU streamers, right? And you have this one jungler, Agorin, I think everyone knows him. So Agorin is probably the best player in most of the servers, right? And you can, of course, always only ban his champions, but they have developed as a team to a point where he's not the only carry. So I think if let's say we just outban Karina, we just outban Dragda, it's not gonna work like that. I think you have to find a way to make it work outside of the draft. You should ban some of these power picks. Leaving Neferi open was absolutely deadly, and you didn't stand a chance, even less than in game number 1. But I feel like, or at least my feeling is that sometimes these more, let's say, streamer-focused teams lack a little bit of macro, or like a little bit of the competitive game read. And maybe that's where you need to work on, you know, where it's like, okay, we cannot really outban or outpick them. There's too many power picks. These players play a lot of solo queue. If we want to make it through game 1 and game 2, we need a clearer game plan. And maybe that means just playing classic front to back in order to disable whatever they're trying to throw at you. But it's really just hearsay, you know. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm so far away from whatever elo these people are in. Silver One, no, greetings, coming out from right down there where Pislow is living.
Silver Ones, rise up in chat. I know there's a lot of you in there.
Yeah, no, in chat we're all challenger. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of different approaches. I just feel like only focusing on draft cannot be it. You have to find ways to answer in game, and maybe it has to be through macro. I don't know.
Yeah, it is at its core a skill issue.
They lack everything, as you heard on the side of Dragdar. It's just like they don't have, you know, they're not preparing
a plan.
They're just players. You know, so maybe the other way is to tilt them, get them mad at each other. Maybe they don't have that level. Maybe they're not used to losing.
Psychological warfare.
Yeah, mental warfare.
Piss one of them off. Yeah, play the mental warfare game.
Sure.
Everybody who's listening, write these ideas down and then quote us when you do it right.
Yeah, go into their streams and like charge back a bunch of fake donations and tilt them before the game. See if that'll set them off before we go. But yeah, ultimately it is a bit of a skill issue, guys. Someone's gonna have to work it out. Someone's gonna have to work out how to beat this team because right now it's looking pretty tough. Let's take a look at the bracket and see the rest of our maps that we can look forward to for this week and those to come. In Quick and Force, advancing to that winners finals up in the upper side. Not tomorrow, what day is it? It's Monday. Thursday, we will have the second upper bracket match, Venom Crest versus Rise Gaming, where we will get to see Bust versus the Trizzler as we set up in our players to watch before these games get into it. So very, very exciting match to check out later in this week. And then, of course, we have plenty more heading into the lower bracket following that stage where BROD and Friends will still have a chance to make that run back. For now, we have run pretty long. We've had a nice, good post-game discussion. Thank you very much, folks. Frisky and Melee, it's been wonderful desking with you. Thank you, Dubby and Rob, for a wonderful cast as always. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Remember, you can buy your finals tickets. They are available now. Links are in the Discord. Links are on socials. Come down to Stoke-on-Trent. We know it's Stoke-on-Trent. We're going to revitalize Stoke-on-Trent single-handedly with the esports industry, with the Four Nations, and you don't want to miss that. You want to be a part of it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed it. We will see you on Thursday for more Four Nations playoffs action.
Coming down, the fortune of the red.